locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, there got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, there got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, there got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, there got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, there got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, there got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, there got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, there got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, there got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my phone, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my phone, she got me locked in on cup though.
Well, good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be back. George Morgan here at your service. It's PSGL, it's Wednesday night, it's Spain tonight as well. Lots on the table, lots of battling. The title contest is still alive and kicking. And Jack, it's only taken us 10 rounds. We're on the 11th. It's all to play for.
Boromant goes on the inside and takes the lead on the final lap of the race. Now it's side by side between Boromant and Warner, but Boromant's got the inside.
Literally a guest star here in this phenomenal race. Cameron Dowd looking to take P2 in his very first PSGL F1 PC race. Incredible to say the least. You see that Putin to lead. 1.5 seconds. DRS.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back once again to the PSGL E-Series Championship 4, round number 9. And yes, we know we only saw you 2 days ago, but we're back again because, well, we had a rerun, didn't we, Vimila? We're back now for Mexico, so we're on the normal time schedule now for the rest of the season. And, well, today, Josh, it's a bit of a change here in the E-Series because we've had one team depart, RHG have withdrawn, so ET8 have jumped in and taken their place, and it's an interesting one, isn't it, Josh? We've never had this happen before, have we? In I don't think
No.
many team series at all have we, because I know we do a couple of other series, and I don't think this has even happened there before. So a bit of something new here.
No, but I mean, realistically, it goes to shows how well the qualifiers worked. We've got ET8 in. They were, I mean, you're looking at 2,000ths of a time delta they missed out by. So it's good to see them back on the grid. I'm excited to see what we're going to be able to do. I want to see if we're going to be able to cook anything fresh, anything different up.
Yep.
Because around a circuit like Mexico, it gives you an ample amount of opportunities, right? You can kind of play around a little bit. Yes, the DRS train is going to be prominent, but if you can kind of work your way around it, there's an ample of opportunities to really excel.
Of course, and I think with ET8 especially, I think they're in a situation where they haven't really got any expectations here. They haven't really got to fight for a championship, so for them, there's nothing to lose. So they might as well go all Hail Mary and see what they can get out of it. And, you know, I think they can definitely score a couple of top 10s. And we'll have a look at the lineups on our screens right now, and we can see, of course, ET8 coming into the championship have got Zalan Bida and Bogdan Moldovan. I don't know much about Zalan, but Bogdan, I've commentated it over him since season 30. It's been a long time, so it's nice to see him back on my screens. Obviously, normally races down in F2, in F3. Obviously, now he's here in the E-Series Championship, and we can see as well TF10 have Tunner O'Shea and Felipe Sousa, and Felipe is going to be serving the quali ban after, I think it was a qualifying interference in the last round, so obviously they got that ban. And then Ferrari have got Dylan Moran and Istvan Pukki. Race Clutch have got Sergio Sobrino and Diois Crozen. Veloce Academy have Declan Barrett and Leo Lund. Then we have F7R with Tiger Hardy and Louis Valentine. Novus Racing with with Nick Bonventa, and I think they've made a change to someone else, unless that's been updated, I'm not sure. TES have Nelson Alves and Modesto Mena. SRC with Andres Franco and Louis Welch. And finally, Williams with Ikebana and Kian Gundorp. And Josh, something else to note, Ferrari, they've quite caught up, haven't they, in the championship?
Yes, only 2 points behind Williams now. 282 for Williams, 280 for Ferrari. It's looking very, very close. I know Jonas Martins was extremely happy with his team's performance around Imola. To be able to catch back up, and dare I say, it was, well, let's just say, Tomek and Dylan did a fantastic job. Unfortunately, I wasn't there to be able to witness a Ferrari win at Imola. It would have been the first time in a long time I would have saw that, but nevertheless, it's great to see the championship closing up once again. But I will just leave you with this lingering thought. Of course, Formula One sim racing getting back underway. How much are these teams willing to put in towards E-Series?
Yeah.
How much time? How much focus? Can F7R be able to jump themselves back up into contention against Williams and Ferrari? For me, that's going to be one of the dynamics I'm going to be keeping an eye out for. But of course, we've had RHG departure, so they'll be stuck on 244 points, falling down the order. Race Clutch, SRC, looking to be hot on their heels, catch back up, get past them. And then we've got Veloce Academy, once again, 2 points off the back of SRC. TF10, Novus and Thomas Enge, kind of just being in the middle of nowhere. And obviously, ETA would be joining them down towards the bottom. But hopefully, they'll be able to get themselves a good points haul here and really look to try and push themselves forward. Well, around the baseball stadium, because I'm not calling it a racetrack. Again, my opinions on making them standard out around this baseball circuit. I'd really be able to try and cause a little bit of disruption, but nevertheless, we do have a couple cars rolling out of the pit lane for the start of qualifying. Yeah,
and the two that are going out are our two new our two new drivers for the new team. It will be Zeland Beda going out first, along with Bogdan Moldovan. So, you know, a lot of eyes are going to be on this team tonight. Of course, in the kit car, going to see what they can do. Try, and if they can, get themselves into Q3. Try and get themselves a top 10 finish. But it's going to definitely be hard for the team, considering they've came in with, you know, I'd say probably little to no practice, because R8G pretty much, I think, pulled out. I think, you know, it was either today or yesterday. So they haven't really had time to get adjusted to the circuit and get everything sorted out. So yeah, they're going to be a little bit underprepared, I think, compared to other teams. But then again, you know, we'll see what they can do. I think they can definitely try and get themselves in towards that top 10. And also, they're taking a bit of a different strategy to what the other teams take. And that is they've taken a set of softs rather than a set of the intermediates. So, yeah, they're taking a bit of a different way to the start of qualifying, and we'll see if this can work out. It might do, it might not. But Josh, going out so early on a set of the softs makes you think, are they not that confident of getting out of Q1 here?
Well, it's an odd one, isn't it? Because we know Mexico, it's not the shortest circuit, it's also not the longest. It can be very, very prominent for these drivers, especially given the fact that they might not have had the necessary practice. You know, if you was to go out on a set of intermediates, lose your way coming out the final corner, you could potentially be looking at picking up damage. Of course, then you're skipping a little chunk of qualifying to get the car repaired and really try and get it back into the zone. So for me, it's definitely a safe bet to go out on a set of soft tyres. It wouldn't surprise me if we see the majority of teams go out on softs, purely because of the way the qualifying runs around here. There's a lot of time to be gained. There's a lot of time which can be burnt and can necessarily be wasted.
So Josh, it seems I might have been a little bit wrong of my prediction of why they went out on the softs. Well, a bit of information has came through from me to say that in Q2, it's going to be a one-shot quali because rain will be on the way. So now, that makes qualifying even more interesting. And now, makes sense why Tony Roche, Zalan, Bogdan have all gone out on a set of the softs, because they won't need any in Q3 by the seams of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a little bit of rain around Mexico. I mean, it's not unheard of, but at the same time, it'll throw up another little curveball for a couple of these drivers, especially heading through that final sector. Tight, twisty, slightly awkward for the drivers in the dry, let alone in the wet. It's certainly going to throw up a good couple of curveballs, but I'm going to be very interested to see how these drivers are going to necessarily take these soft compound runs at the start of Q1. Are they going to be pushing hell for leather, or are they going to be looking for a bank lap and then starting to work themselves up from there? Oh, well, I suppose only time's going to be able to tell.
Yeah, we can see Bogdan now heading down in towards the Final part of the corner. I think it's the Forosol or something. I think it is in Mexican, but I'm not fully sure. As we see now, head out the final corner up towards the line. What will it be for Bogdan Moldovan? A 1:15.6 to kick off the session. His teammate follows him through with a 15.8, and then I believe the next car to start a lap will be Tony Richet, just heading down now in towards turn number 12, and then we've got also the 2 Ferraris, the 2 race clutches, the 2 TESs, the 2 F7Rs, heading out onto the circuit now to get ready for their first runs of Q1, and probably one of 2 maybe, depending on how they sort their run plan out for this session. And well, from what we've seen, Q2 could just be a one-shot quali format in the sense that the rain will come. So they've also got to kind of, lay their benchmarks down in qualifying, get what they can out of Q1, figure out where their pace is, and then in Q2 be able to throw everything at it. Because with one run, you've literally got, you can't make one mistake whatsoever there. In a quali format like this, you can make 3 mistakes because you can keep going out. When you've got one run because of rain, you've got no mistakes, and, well, you make a mistake, and that is probably you out of qualifying.
Yeah, and I feel like as well with the track evolution around here, it can be quite high. Obviously, we're pretty high up in the mountains. Thankfully, there's no desert around us to blow it all up to the top of the mountain, cover the track in sand. But certainly something I'm going to be keeping an eye on is the track evolution. We could supposedly see it get ramped up an awful lot during this Q1 session with all the drivers trying to go out on repetitive laps on fresh sets of softs. But even more so when it starts raining, because once it starts raining, the rubber from the surface ends up getting lifted out, it causes a lot of grease. So we could certainly see drivers fueling for more than one lap on a set of intermediate tyres in the Q3 session, really trying to carry as much of that grease and as much of that water off the racing line as possible before diving it back into the pits, going out again. But it is lovely to see a lot of love being shown for ET8 here with the hashtag EnjoyET8 getting put in the chat by almost everyone. But Tony Richet comes across the line, shows exactly what he's made of with a 1:15.3, and the fact is that these drivers are going to keep increasing the pace. Drivers behind are going to be able to start picking up toes from the cars on slow laps, and it's really going to come down to how well can you time your final run on circuit.
Definitely. I think the track evolution around here, from what I've seen, is quite high. So you need to make sure you time your run perfectly, and also time it into the sense that you don't get stuck at the stadium section with very cold tyres because everyone's so slow. You've got to make sure you can time it perfectly so you can get your tyres warmed up into a good window, ready to absolutely go hell for nail on that final lap. We can see now Dylan Warren heading down in towards the final couple of corners, and of course we've got the sponsor boards back. I've figured out why they didn't work, and it was a very big mistake. It turns out I had a clone of Steam files which actually did nothing, and I put them into there by accident. So I figured that out. We've got them back on screen so you can see our PSGL, our Sim Racing Centre, and of course the GT Omega logos. As we can see, the 2 Ferraris light up the times, and to the top goes Istvan, followed by Dylan. Then we can see further down the SRCs on a lap there, a little bit further down. We'll see possibly one of the MVRs. Here we are, Wilson Hall heading in to the final corner as Tiger Hardy separates the 2 Ferraris. We've got Joris and Sergio going into 5th and 6th. We'll have Hall going to P7. Then we've got the 2 Veloci Academies coming through. I think it will be Leo Lund. No, it won't be Leo Lund. It will be Declan Barrett first, and he goes up into 4th.
Yeah, absolutely. So how realistically will we be able to look at that ET8 time and think, right, okay, this is representative to where they should be? Given they were the first ones out on track, they didn't have the ideal sort of start. Everyone else waited a little bit, tried to get themselves into more of a proficient run plan where they're going to be able to go out, do the lap, dive it back in, go out, do a lap, dive it back in, and potentially even go out for that 3rd lap as well, depending on how well they're able to sort of circulate it around the teams. That's why we're going to see a lot of drivers split from their teammates, just so they don't hold each other up coming in and out of the pit box. That's going to be absolutely crucial to trying to maximise the amount of time they've got in this session. But no, it's certainly going to be interesting seeing a couple of these teams negotiate their way around, as we've got Ikebiner here just hurdling himself through Sector 2 at the minute. Now, Williams need a result here. You know, they got caught lacking a little bit around Imola, but with King Gordondorp, Ikebiner, you could really expect them to try and, narrow in a little bit more, try and focus up, try and get themselves into a better position than what they found themselves out of the qualifying in Imola, and really try and push themselves slightly further forward at the start of the race. Whether the race is going to be wet as well, that's up for debate, because we could be seeing drivers use sort of different strategies, different setups around what they're looking for. Obviously, you're going to want the car, as streamlined as possible, as little drag as possible to help with the main straight, but of course, you reduce for drag, you reduce for downforce. It's not an ideal scenario for the teams, especially when you've got a tight and twisty Sector 2, which, if it starts raining as well, will just become an awful lot more difficult.
Of course, and I think, when we talk about the actual race around this circuit, you've got to think of that long back straight heading out the final corner down towards turn number 1. Through there, you've got to make sure you play your card right in that final set. You need to get yourself into the perfect position, to get yourself DRS, to get the most battery, to have the best exit. Otherwise, you could be under some really big compromisation coming out of that final corner. So on the last laps, I think we expect to see a little bit of DRS chicken around. Trevor's trying to just hold off and get that DRS to obviously give them a long slipstream down towards turn 1. And also, with it being a double detection, you get the DRS down to turn 1. You get it also down to turn 4, which is really a big boost, especially if you can make that move in towards the first corner. So, yeah, I think the racing here is going to be interesting because it's going to be more playing it tactically than it is just going fast. You might be the slowest. You might be the slowest in the top 4 train, but because of you being in the best position, you can come out and be in the lead by the time you get to turn 1, and that's what makes this race very, very interesting because it's not always about just being the quickest driver. So quali, you could be on pole, but you could drop down quite a few positions on that final lap just due to the fact you didn't have DRS, you didn't have ERS to use, and also could be on the fact you have old tyres. So we can see Taka Hardy there. Retired from the session on his .2. I think that he's definitely safe enough. He's got a 5/10 gap to P9. Well, it's bigger than that, isn't it? It's about a 6/10 gap to P19 and about a 5/10 gap to P16. So I think Tycho should be safe on his lap time, but ET8 need to find something. Bogdan, I missed it on his lap. He went 13th. I didn't quite see him set a lap. So he's now, for now, just outside that elimination zone, and I think he can go again. So Bogdan's timed this quite perfectly, hasn't he, in this session?
Yeah, and as well, he's been able to avoid a little bit of a traffic there by going out a little bit earlier. Once again, it's clear that ET8, they're just looking to go for it. They're more than happy to absolutely wing it and really try and get anything they can out of this session. And kudos to them for doing it. Bogdan getting that lap in on the board. Again, another improvement. We're going to see more of these drivers come across the line, setting quicker and quicker laps each and every time. We can expect the time to get reduced, but again, as you mentioned, Tiger Hardy's looking to be safe. Realistically, I'll probably cut off around that 0.5.
Yeah, definitely. I think around that, the low 0.5, mid 0.5 as well. We'll probably see the cut-off point B. We can see now Louis Vantin on a lap. He took pole back in round 1, so to see him in 18th at the moment is definitely quite a surprise. So we'll see what he can do on this next run. Purple in that first set, up by a 10th, which will put him into around P15, so definitely needs to find time in this middle sector here. This horrible little, it's just a big long chicane, isn't it? Left, right, left, right, left, right. It's a very horrible corner and also very unrealistic to real life. You can go flat through here. In real life, you have no chance to go flat. I think at some point you have to brake in that section, and Louis not finding much time at all in that middle sector there, only finding around a 100th of a second, so he needs to, find a lot in this final bit, which, to be fair, if you made a mistake on the final lap, it's very easy to find time in the Forosol section. Then out to the final corner, the Peril Tarda up towards the line. And where will it go? It will be P4 for Louis. A big improvement in that final sector. And now he should be easily safe going through into the next session here.
Absolutely. It's what F7R need. They want to catch back up. They want to be able to put the pressure on these esport teams who are dealing with a couple of internal struggles with, the Formula 1 sim racing lineups, getting that all sorted, making sure they're prepared, not necessarily having that opportunity to field the best drivers possible. This is where F7R really need to put the foot down and think, right, opportunities here, let's make the most of it. But we say that, Dylan Moran's bit back pretty hard. Once again, just extending his lead there, dropping it now to a 15.176, and then we do have Istvan Pukki coming up towards the line now as well, but he's not able to improve. He's just a little bit off the pace from that lap, but we can expect these drivers to have a couple errors here and there because of how twitchy they're going to want the setup. Doesn't matter how the drivers are looking to kind of plan it and kind of feel themselves around this circuit. You want the lowest wings possible. You want to be able to guarantee yourself an actual overtaking opportunity down into turn 1. It's all very good running slightly higher wings, struggling a little bit down that straight in qualifying, because you will gain it up under braking in the time zones. You're not necessarily battling for a position, but if you end up running a slightly higher downforce setup, it can really come back and bite you when you're in that DRS train. You're looking to try and make moves. You will just feel a bit like a sitting duck compared to those with lower wings, but it's going to be one of those that we're going to just see eventually over time with drivers keep, improving the laps, getting themselves more and more dialed into their setups. it's certainly going to be interesting.
Yeah, I think this, circuit is definitely very setup dependent. Whether you go for a low wing or a high wing setup, it really does change how fast you are in certain parts of the lap. So normally, you can look at the setups and think, well, if you've got a low wing setup, you might actually have a faster time because it can benefit you more down a straight. So you don't always have to look at qualifying here in terms of the fastest time, because some drivers, you can look more into the different sectors and see where they're quicker there, and that's also, where you can see the big differences between the different drivers. As we can see, Ikebana now heading down in towards the final few corners here on his next lap, up by a 10th in that second sector, looking to put himself around that P4 mark there, just ahead of Istvan Pukki as he heads out of the final corner up towards the line. Goes up into P7 though, doesn't gain that much on his final sector, and Kian unfortunately down in that final sector as well. We'll see if any more improvements come through, but I think most people are done on their laps. And you can see, Josh, it's getting very dark out on circuit, but I think they can make it through Q1 in the dry.
Yes, it's I don't know. I feel like we might have to stick our hand outside and just have a little check to see what the weather's really feeling. But you put this into consideration. The track's getting colder and colder with each time the cloud covers up the sun for any period of time. Track's getting cooler constantly. The tyres won't be at their optimum temperature. It's going to be a lot harder to warm up. We're going to need to take a little bit longer on the outlap to really try and get those tyres into that operating window. It certainly could be very interesting as we see Louis Welsh having a little squirm through that final sector there, bless him. He's very much looking to try and find himself a better opportunity. Currently waiting for his teammate to dive it back into the pits, I believe.
Yep, he's just heading back into the pits now so he doesn't get held up in the pit lane. As we can see, some laps get underway now. We've got Zalambida heading down towards turn number 1 here, I believe, on his final run in this session. He's currently on a 15.7, needs to find 2/10 to get himself out of that elimination zone. So a lot of improvements are needed here by the team. And Louis, retiring in P12 there, that might not be that safe for the SRC driver there. So a bit of a risk here from Louis Welch to retire, and also Leo Lund joining him as well in the retirements. And, well, the top 12, apart from Declan All, deciding to retire from the session. So 13th down are all fighting to get themselves out of that bottom 5. And I could easily see 1 or 2 of those that have retired dropping out, as I think I see a little bit of rain on track, Josh. Yeah, it's raining. So now this could really ruin some of these drivers' laps. Zalambida might be a little bit lucky in the sense he's already halfway through. Does he find an improvement in the second sector as he heads down towards turn 12? No. So I think he could be out of qualifying here, Josh. I think this might be it.
Oh, yeah, and he's ran really deep there heading into that final sector and validated his lap time as well. Let's keep an eye on the rest of the drivers. Nelson Alvarez was able to make it perfectly fine there through the sector. Oh, never mind. I spoke a little bit too early. Ended up having a little bit of a slide. Cars are certainly struggling out there. You can see the rain coming down ever so slightly, more and more with each passing corner they end up flying past. All the drivers now presumably going to be diving it back into the pits. Do have invalidation there. I mean, you look at it from this perspective, it's unfortunate, but silver lining, at least it's clear clarification that Q2 will be wet for those of which who have retired.
Yeah, indeed, and well, a good thing to see is ET8 on their debut do make it through to Q2 with Bogdan Moldovan there, just by 30 thousandths of a second. They will get into Q2 and try and fight for a spot in the top 10, and well, with it being a wet session, this could rather be interesting of what will happen in the next part of qualifying. Q2, as we know, will be wet, and I believe it will be on the intermediate tyres, as we can see there. Andrzej Franco doing a bit of a drift show for us as he heads his way through turn 3. So, yeah, the track very, very wet at this current point. And SRC looking to get them a little bit more airtime here in Q1, but unfortunately we do lose Andrzej Franco in that bottom 5 due to him not being able to get the time in at the end due to the rain coming, I think, a little bit prematurely, as Dylan Moran did tell me it was going to be after 30 minutes, not after 18. So, yeah, interesting indeed.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting. Something else I do just want to point out there. TES and MVR both getting a driver out of the Q1 as well. So looking promising for them. It's looking to slightly move further forward. But then, of course, you've got the expected likes of Declan Barrett, Sergio Sobrino, Tona Roche, Tycho Hardy, Dylan Warren, all making their way through and looking very comfortable out on circuit. Not necessarily always getting the greatest lap time, but they looked more than happy and more than, pleasant with control of their car.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to raise you the question. Do you think any of those drivers were on a dry setup?
Well, I don't know. I'd presume. Oh, it's hard to call, isn't it? I don't know. It's a hard one
Yeah.
because they won't. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. I'm not knowledgeable enough to know that. But we can see Declan Barrett takes the fastest time there with the 1:15.13 on ahead of Dylan Warren in second and Joris Krozen in third place, ahead of Isam Pukki in fourth and the two F7Rs in P5 and P6, followed by the two Williamses, P7 and P8. Then we have Tanner O'Shea in ninth and Sergio Sobrino round out the top 10, followed by Leo Lund in P11, Louis Welch in P12, Wilson Hall in P13, Modesto Mena in P14, and finally getting through to Q2 will be Bogdan Moldovan for the ET8 team. And then we did lose, of course, Nelson Alves for TES, Andres Franco for SRC, Zalambida for ET8, Nick Bonventa for NVR, and Felipe Cesar, who did have a qualifying ban, and he was for TF10. So now, I believe we'll have an intermediate Q2. The question is if it's going to be if it's going to be inters or wet. We'll see once they go out, and it is going to be intermediates, Josh.
Yes. It's raining, but not quite as enough to bring out the wet tyres. Unlike real life, the wet tyres are actually used in this game. we will potentially get that opportunity if the rain keeps coming down or if it increases with its downfall. But these drivers now, they've got a difficult scenario. Do they trust that the rain's going to slowly ease up towards the end of a session and they can get themselves a quicker lap time? Or do they not want to take the risk, chuck the car out there in a set of inters right now, put it in for a couple laps of fuel, and try and crack away up the wet surface of the track? Personally, for me, I'd prefer to do a couple extra laps, just get myself used to the wet conditions, because it does take a little bit of adjustment, and it's something that these drivers will have to be precariously teetering around with a little bit.
Of course, we'll see what they can do on their first runs in Q2. Of course, some of them might take a couple of runs just to get adjusted to the conditions. So, you know, the first laps here in Q2 might not mean the most. But we can see, of course, now Joris Krozen going to be the first out on circuit here on a set of the intermediate tyres ahead of his teammate and also one of the rivals being Ferrari. I think that might be Isvan Pukki that's there with them. And, of course, Ferrari have got a lot of pressure on them now, looking to defend their championship from Season 2. They're 2 points back from Williams, so all they need to do to take the lead is to outscore Williams by 3 whole points. And Ferrari, yet again, as usual, have a very, very strong lineup. So we'll see what they're able to do here tonight and maybe try and take the lead away from Williams at the start of the season, Josh. We was both saying they're in a bit of a rough patch and maybe they're not going to even have a chance of trying to defend their championship well. 5 rounds later, they're now looking to try and take it away.
Yes, it's part of the beauty with the point scoring system here in E-Series. It really can give you that opportunity to kind of come back from middle of no man's land and really decide to put a title challenge on. All you got to do is hit a good stride and a little bit of positive form where other teams might slowly start dipping. Yeah. And it just brings open the entire opportunity to try and get control of a championship. Take F7R, for example. They weren't necessarily predicted to be, you know, in the top half of the grid. And I say that with the most sincere way possible because they've shown throughout the rest of the series they're consistently up there. They're consistently getting a good handful of points, consistently getting podiums, and through that they've been able to dictate themselves up into P3 in the championship. But from earlier on in the season, you've got to think they might feel a little bit hard done by if they end up finishing third overall.
Yeah, definitely. I think they had such a good start to the season. Falling back might be a bit of a shame, but then again, they're a community team. They're racing against esports drivers, so it's no surprise to see them, drop down as the season gets on because obviously esports, they have more resources to throw at it. They have, a wider selection of drivers. You can see Tiger Hardy's been here every race this season for F7R. None of the other teams, I don't think, have ever done that. Have one driver be there for every single race. So, it just shows they're able to switch out and put other drivers in, and stop them from getting to that burnout stage, which I don't think Tiger's getting to. But I think racing every will definitely have an effect on his performance over time. As we can see now, Joris Krozen head down towards turn number 12 now to finish off the first lap of Q2, and we'll see what the times are looking like as he heads his way through the Faro Salt section in Stadium, as it's otherwise known as, and then into the Peraltada at the final corner. In other words, a very slow parabolic is what I call it anyway. As he heads out of the corner up towards the line, what will it be for Joris up to the top with the 25.0? What can Dylan Warren do? Isfan, what can he do? He heads back into the pits. Dylan will finish his lap. What can he do as he heads up to the line? Sergio does a 0.5. Dylan goes up to the top with a 24.9 there. As you can see, some more cars coming through. We've got that'll be Declan Barrett, so he goes into third place. They're just ahead of Sergio Sobrino. What can Keane Gordon do for the Williams team as his teammate will head up to the line? Here we go to second. Keane goes up into fourth, so Williams looking strong there.
Yep, certainly are. You know, I mean, it's a bit of give and take with Ferrari and Williams. It always has been, hasn't it, between the two historic brands? Both of them trying to teeter the other one over just a little bit. But so far, Istvan not doing that lap, Tycho Hardy invalidating it. It's looking very solid for Williams. It's just whether we're going to be able to keep that momentum going. As we see Lou Valentine up towards the line. Only P11, we know we can have a little bit more to offer. It's just whether they've dialed in the car correctly for this weather, for this qualifying session, or whether they're looking to try and play the long haul. Think the race is going to be dry, really trying to excel there. But Will Snow coming across there in P8 for MVR. Brilliant job.
Of course, and MVR yet again looking to get a car into Q2, into Q3. They did it last week, on Wednesday in Imola, and they got themselves a car through and towards Q3. I think it was Timo Zlenkovic that did that, and they're looking to do it once again here. You know, MVR looking to be on a bit of a stronger form now. Now we're getting towards the end of the championship, so we'll see what they can do in these final couple of rounds. But looking a little bit stronger is the team indeed. We can see Louis Welch now going to be heading back into the pit lane. Went a little bit too wide on that lap, so either if he did, I think even if he does set it, he will get a penalty because you shouldn't, continue with the lap if you go wide. That's why TF10 got their qualifying ban, because one of their drivers ran wide on their lap at Piratella. And that obviously gave them then a penalty because they completed it and got themselves a time on the board. And Louis Welch will head back into the pits, and that is his lap done. And Leo Lund there, got up into P4 there, just a little bit behind the rear of Joris Krozen. And now we can see Tycho Hardy back out again on an out lap, and we'll see when Istvan Picky also joins him because he needs to get a lap on the board.
Yes, absolutely. 9 minutes left to go of the session, but it doesn't look like the rain is considering how much time is left in the session because it just seems to be chucking it down the exact same as it was a couple minutes ago. But Leo Lund going for that alternate sort of run plan, fueling up for numerous amount of laps, getting on top of it there. Again, made it work brilliantly, dumped the battery where it was needed. He was able to save enough to really be able to go again. This time, it's just a slow rolling in lap, nothing to worry about too much. But when you've got the likes of Istvan Pukki, Tycho Hardy running a slightly alternate plan to the rest of the grid, they're going to find themselves cleaner. As soon as you know they're going to get cleaner, you can really expect the maximum performance out of those two. They seem to thrive in it. Other drivers tend to want a car in front to try and follow and track just to make sure they can keep pace with it. It's very much down to personal preference, but time and time again, we've seen Tycho Hardy go out on his own sort of run plan, not caring for what the other drivers are doing, and be able to put in a stonking lap time to find himself cruising easily into Q3 and easily into the top 5. So I'm expecting very, very good things from both those drivers.
Of course, well, Tycho Hardy took pole, didn't he, back in Spain? I think it was round 3 of the season. So, he has proven he can get the best qualifying times, but the thing is here now, it's a different condition, it's wet. Whether he's as quick on the wet as he is in the dry, we don't know. We'll know after he sets this up, and we'll see where he can put himself in the pecking order. But still at the top is, of course, Dylan Warren there with that 124.943. Cabana just behind on his 24.954. As we can see, Tycho Hardy now head his way down towards turn number 1 here. We'll go on board with the S7R as he heads all the way down this long back straight in towards the first corner, breaking around that 100-metre board before turning the car into the right-hand side. You can see they're just being careful on the brakes. They're not trying to lock the rears into the corner. Very careful on the throttle as he heads his way through 2 and 3. And then foot to the floor on the exit down towards turn number 4 here. You normally have DRS in the wet conditions. You don't have any. So no advantage of speed. Down this straight in towards the 4th corner. To the left he goes. You can see just trying to be very careful on the throttle here, Josh, because he knows one bit of a snap on the throttle, that's your car going round.
Yes, it can be so punishing throughout this entire sort of end of the first sector, start of the second sector scenario. Even just trying to get on traction, it can be very, very tentative. That's why we're going to see him use slightly higher gears than what we would necessarily like. We're going to see him shift up a little bit earlier in comparison to the dry weather as well. But Tycho so far navigating that S's section absolutely perfectly. You mentioned no DRS, but he can still try and get a cheeky little bit of a slipstream from one of the cars in front, as long as it's not his teammate. It's all good in the books there. But Tycho here looking to delicately balance the car. It very much seems like it's on a knife edge. but he's done a fantastic job so far. He's going to be rounding it out here through turn 16, heading into turn 17 to come across the line. He's going to want to try and cut it as short as possible to the right-hand side, but he just doesn't have the grip necessary to do it, and that'll be a key theme throughout the rest of this wet qualifying session. But he jumps himself up into P5. Question is, where's Istvan Pukki going to be able to put it?
Yeah, we'll see what Istvan can do now as he heads his way as well in towards turn number 12. Just going to be into the braking zone, just being careful, of course, on the brakes, on the throttle, and the turning as well as he heads in towards the Forest Soul section. Then I think there's another couple of cars behind as well looking to complete their laps as well. So we'll keep on board here with the Ferrari heading his way through into the final corner here. What will it be for Pukki as he heads up towards the line? Goes up to the top there with the points 8.74. What can Dylan Warren do? Because he's up by 2.5 tenths of a second in the second and first set to combine. To the line he goes to a 0.526. What a lap there from Dylan Warren, as we can see a few more cars getting ready to finish their laps. We've got Louis Valentino heading through the end of the Yes's section. He'll head his way down in towards the next corner at turn 12. He's up as well, Josh, by half a second here.
Yep, show the track evolution here in the wet. As mentioned, it would be a little bit greasy, but now those laps have sort of happened. They've been able to kick off some of the water from the racing line, just offering it a little bit more grip for the tyres to really grab onto without having to necessarily slide as much. So we can see these lap times constantly keep improving. It wouldn't surprise me if we end up seeing a couple of drivers trying to hold it on for the very last second of this qualifying session before trying to get that laps in. But Lou Valentine hopping himself up into P8. Again, another strong lap from him.
Of course, some Bogdan Molran there as well, heading out of the final corner, unfortunately, invalidating his lap. So he heads back into the pit lane and will go out once again at the end of the session. What can Wilson Hall do as he heads up towards the line? Will be a 25.1. Pops him up into the top 5 there. Very nice lap indeed from Wilson Hall. We can see Modesto Mena as well on a lap heading down in towards the next couple of corners here, up by only 60 thousandths of a second in the first and second set. So the question is, can he find time in the final sector as he heads his way through up towards the line? He's committed to the lap. He will set a 1:25.3. Unfortunately, still keeping him down in that bottom 5. But the issue we have here definitely is for Williams. Keane Goldendorp here, Josh, on the cusp of going out in Q2. He needs to find a big improvement in that final lap.
Absolutely. I mean, you're looking at it realistically. He's going to want at least a 4/10 improvement to guarantee himself safety, be up there with his teammate in P3, to make sure he's not at any sort of risk. But it can be so difficult to be able to find that time in the wet condition, especially if you've not necessarily had the amount of practice you would want in these wet conditions. Of course, due to one of the new features of the F123 game, you can't run in a wet time trial. You kind of have to force it in dry for time trial runs and then create a custom scenario to be able to really get that practice for the wet tires. But we know what Keane's capable of. We know he's a brilliant talent. We know he's got a lot of pace. It's just whether it's going to be able to get shown during these conditions and during this qualifying session. I have full faith in him being able to put a good lap together, but the question is it going to be good enough with the track constantly evolving, getting better with each car which ends up crossing that start-finish straight?
Yeah, I think indeed. I think the end of the session could be quite interesting. But another thing to notice as well, from what I've been told, is that it's going to be a one-lap inter for Q3, and then it's going to be dry, I think.
Oh, my word!
So the ending of Q2 ending of Q3, could also be very interesting. So we'll see what that gives to us. We'll see what that can throw into the bag, and maybe we could get a surprise pole position here tonight, Josh.
So, yeah, I mean it's very much looking that way. It wouldn't be the first time we've seen mixed conditions give us a surprise pole sitter. Even here in E-Series, we've seen it time and time again. Drivers being able to catch out the rest of the field by doing something a little bit different, a little bit cheeky, and being able to really gain the rewards from it. Otis Lawrence is a great example. One of those drivers who doesn't necessarily mind going a little bit out of his way to do something which no one's going to think of, and really be able to pull it off in a spectacular fashion. So I guess eyes are going to be over towards that Veloce Academy camp with Declan Barrett and Leo Lund. Which one of them's feeling a little bit cheeky and a little bit brave to try and get themselves sorted?
Of course, and I think, I was looking at Dylan Warren here because if we had a wet Q3, I think he would easily be looking to try and take pole position. As we can see, Modesto there nearly getting put in the back of Bogdan Moldovan into turn 4. But as I was saying, yes, if it was a wet Q3, I think Dylan Warren would be one of the strongest drivers because so far he's shown levels in Q2 with his lap times and, the speed he's carried through some of the corners. Last week at Imola, a wet race, he won by 5 seconds. He had a 15-second gap to P3. he was yet again just on fire. So the fact it's going to be a dry Q3 here might be a bit disappointing for him because he knows in the wet he's really, really quick. I'm not saying he's not quick in the dry, but I'd say for him it's easier for him to go out, you know, and do a lap on in the wetter conditions. So we'll see as Modesto now heads down into the final couple of corners. I think he will be going to go again and for another lap unless he's not got the battery to do so. He's got 100% battery here. So Modesto, I think, has timed this perfectly here, Josh.
Yeah, it's certainly looking grand for him, isn't it? But again, questions raised over the cars behind him. Are they going to find themselves in a little bit of a better trap position, given the rain getting cleared each and every single lap by these intermediate tyres? Because Keane's starting his lap now, and then behind him he's got his teammate Ikebaina there, just holding the rest of the field back, being very cheeky. They don't necessarily have the time to be able to spread out that entire field coming through the baseball section at the minute. You can see on the mini-map, it's absolute carnage there.
It is indeed. We'll have a quick look here. We'll go on Declan Barrett's camera. We can see there, look at them all just trying to file through. We'll look at Wilson Hall. He's at the rear of the train. Look at them pretty much stopping in towards that final corner here. And also, I've noticed, why is Leo Lund stayed in the pit lane? Because he's not going to make it through, I don't think, with a 0.2, is he? Surely not. But if he does, a big surprise.
I have done everything in my power to try and get him back into the game.
Oh,
lobby,
is he left? Oh, okay.
But it is a famous Formula 123 feature. It's something that, you know, at the end of the day, it's not necessarily in the driver's control, but he'll be finishing the session with the 125.207. Best he can do now is pray.
Yep. So the Q2 curse is back again for Leo Lund. I think every session, and I've commentated over him here in the series, he's dropped it in Q2, or his internet started in Q2 or something, as we can see now. A few cars head through into the final corner. First, we've got Modesto and Maynard. He was up by 4 tenths in that second set. So what can he do as he heads up towards the line? What will it be for TES? Into P2 there. Now the question is, was that a good lap or is the track getting dry? If that's the case, this could be quite a frightening end to Q2 for many as Keane goes to the top. Now what can his teammate do? Ikebaina, Josh, as he heads out the final corner.
Yeah, it's certainly looking solid from the Williams team. Ike here is going to be looking to try and put himself up towards the front two, and he's absolutely smashed it there. Once again, we're going to see a lot of these drivers come across the line, improving their lap times, and by the looks of it, improving in a drastic fashion. Going to keep an eye on Joris Krozen here to see what he's going to be able to do. Currently sitting at P9, a little bit of jeopardy. It's going to get moved down to P10, come across the line, hops it up into P4, showing the track evolution here is absolutely spectacular. You've got to keep in mind now, Wilson Hall, he needs to find a little bit of the larger improvement, and you can see the drivers towards the back of the train are finding an awful lot more time. Louis Welsh,
just into the top 10.
Again and again, we're seeing that being the last in the train around circuits like Mexico with changing conditions, it's far and away clear of the rest of it. I mean, what else is there to say? Fantastic timing from the drivers.
Indeed there, and Dylan Warrant would have been a little bit shaky there as he invalidated on his lap, and unfortunately for him only finished P9. But we do have a big shock here in qualifying. Both of the S7Rs are out in Q2. Tycho and Louis are done here in qualifying, along with Modesto, Bogdan and Leo. Then we can see the top 10 here. Istvan Pukki leads them away there with a 123.93, followed by Tony Roche in second for TF10, Declan Barrett in third, Ikebaina in P4, the two race clutches in P5 and P6, followed by Wilson Hall in seventh, Keane Goldendup in eighth, Dylan Moore ninth, and Louis Welch in 10th there, getting it through to Q3 for the SRC team, and also brilliant to see MVR as well, Josh, into Q3, and Modesto, I thought he'd get through, but unfortunately couldn't at the final hurdle.
Yeah, it's one of those, isn't it? You know, sometimes you take the good with the bad, but no, it is dry, and then this provides a whole new scenario for these drivers. They've done a numerous amount of laps on their fresh set of soft tyres. If any of them have decided to save them out of that Q1 session, be very brave of them, but end of the day, it wouldn't be the first time we've been caught surprised. But with the track now being completely green, not in an optimal position at all that rain would have washed all the rubber away. It'll have no more grip than it did at the start of Q1. This is where the drivers here are really going to have to try and crunch down and figure out where they're going to be able to find the grip from.
Of course, and well, first out on the circuit will be Louis Welch on a set of the soft tyres now, and we can see the red wall slicks back out once more here for qualifying. So we've had a bit of a dry Q1, then a wet Q2, and now a dry Q3. So those that like the dry and got through to the top 10, you'll be very happy. Those who don't like the dry, you'll be very sad. But I don't know many people here, Josh, that don't like the wet conditions. So I'll be very surprised if that was the case. But we can see now 4 drivers out on circuit, a few also following in suit here, and TF10 into the top 10 once again. They need a result here. They're 50 points back from Veloci Academy. They're about, 60 points ahead of MVR and TES. So they're not in that much of an issue, but surely they want to try and fight for 7th position if they can.
Yeah, absolutely. Tony Roche as well being the driver to do it. One of the most informed drivers on this grid at the minute. Everything he's been touching has been turned into gold. He's certainly looking to try and turn the trophy to gold here. But it'll all come down to how competitive the other drivers are going to feel, how competitive they're going to really want to push the car. Tony's in a great position right now, but we've seen time and time again here in E-Series, a great position in Q2 doesn't necessarily mean they'll go on to do wonders in Q3 or even the race. Sergio Sbrino is a great example of it. You'll quite often see him smashing a lap time in Q2 and then end up falling back down the order in Q3. But hopefully this will be the end of that curse and everyone's going to be able to put in the best possible lap time, and we might even see maybe 1 or 2 cheeky PBs depending on how quickly they're going to be able to get all this rubber laid down. If I was one of these drivers, I think I'd want to go out here on a good numerous amount of laps as I combine them deciding to cut the pit entry.
His teammate and him went back into the pit lane. They went back in, so I'm not sure why they did that. But yeah, that's them. Going to be starting again in Q3 to go once more on a new set of tyres. We can see now, though, the sun is shining. The sky is getting bluer here out on the Mexico City circuit, so we should see it become a little bit more brighter now as the qualifying laps get underway. We can see, of course, Louis Welch being first out onto circuit on a set of the softs with one of the Ferraris sitting in just behind as they head their way down to turn 4. It's going to be a 28.6 for Louis in that first set. From behind him will be Sam Pookie as well. He will set a good first sector as well on his first run as they head in towards the double apex turn 6, which for some reason, Josh, isn't labelled as 2 corners. It's labelled as just turn 6, even though there's 2 clear apexes.
It's all dependent on the way majority of drivers take it, isn't it? Because a lot of them just can choose to completely ignore the first apex and just try and hit that perfect second apex so they can have a better run heading down into 7, 8, 9. It's certainly up for debate. But again, if I had my way, I don't think turn 15 is a corner on this circuit. But end of the day, you see him there, Louis Welch having no steering input to get round 15, and he decides to dive it back into the pit lane. Presumably, another set of scrub tyres being used for.
Of course, yeah, and both Isfan and Louis obviously going back into the pit lane. We can see Roche now heading out and going to, I believe, complete this lap. He heads down in towards the Peraltada now. The right hand up, throws it to the right, gets back on the power here, close to the wall, keeps it to the inside on the exit now. What would it be for Roche? 14.9 to kick off the session. Barrett as well, heading into someone here. He's starting his lap now in the on the fresh, brand new soft tyres. We'll see what he can do at the start of Q3 as well to try and fight for pole position. Only one of the Veloci Academy is making it through to Q3, and a big shame for Leo to be out due to his connection issue. So hopefully he can get himself back in for the race and not have any more issues. Otherwise, that would be a very big shame for Veloci Academy, who are fighting very hard to get themselves in towards that top 5 and top 4 of the championship, Josh, because the gaps are very, very close. So I think, is it 3 points back to SRC, Veloci Academy are?
Yes, I do believe it is something like that. I can pull up the direct 2 points.
Oof, it's very close.
I mean, yeah, and then, they're, 17 points off of race clutch as well. They've got a great opportunity here, but it does look like Declan Barrett's going to be running this flag for the remainder of this Q3 session for the Veloci team. Of course, it's unfortunate for Leo, but you've got to consider, around a track like Mexico, starting in the midfield can be quite beneficial, especially on the run down to turn 1.
Of course, and we can see the 2 race coaches heading through now into the final corner here. What can Joris Krozen do on his first run? Will it be provisional pole? Yes, it will. A 14.891. What about Sabrino? Can he put himself onto provisional pole? To the line, only P4 there for Sabrino, but he's only, 40 thousandths back from Declan Barrett's P2 time, so still many improvements can be made here by Sergio Sabrino. As we can see, Wilson Hall now head down in towards turn number 15. We'll see what he can do on this run, whether it'll be back into the pits or it will be completed. I don't know just yet. He will complete the lap. What will it be for Wilson Hall? a 15.4. What about Kean Godendorp? He's only heading down towards turn 1, so we'll go on board here with Dylan Warren, Josh, who's just heading his way into turn number 7.
Yeah, you can just see the confidence that these drivers have to try and challenge themselves around this Hester section. It can be so easy to invalidate, run it a little bit wide throughout any of the apexes or any of the exits, but these drivers have done so much time in this year's game. They understand exactly how the car's going to handle. They know the insides and outs. They know how to balance it on a knife's edge. They know what setups they want. And you can see there with Dylan Warren navigating his way through that final sector as well, how to be quick around the slow corners of the circuits. He's going to come up to the line there, and he's going to be P2 for Dylan Warren. Not bad at all.
Yep, not bad at all. We can see a few more cars coming through. Kean Godendorp here, purple, in that second sector. Can he try and get himself to take away Joris's provisional pole? Lap time of 0.8 for Joris. What will it be for Kean? It will be only a 0.2, a 15.2 there on the board for him. What about his teammate, Ika Boehner? He's heading down only in towards turn number 12. So we'll keep on board with him just for now as he heads his way down in towards those next few corners here, having a bit of a slide as he enters the stadium section now and just trying to squiggle the car through there and keep it within the white lines as he heads his way now into the Peraltada. What will it be here for Ika Boehner as he heads up towards the line? Can it be the top for him? No, it will only be P6 for the Williams driver. What about Istvan Pukki? We can see him heading through as well with Louis Welch, Josh, who's purple in that second sector now.
Yeah, again, just showing the track evolution here, the tyres really coming into a window of their own, putting a little bit of rubber down on the circuit. It's giving them so much more of an opportunity to be able to push that car a little bit harder, especially down into turn 12. It's a fantastic opportunity for these drivers to really be able to push it. We see Louis Welsh hopping up there to P6. How about Istvan Pukki?
Oof, to the top.
Wow. If it was ever in doubt that the track's improving, there's your prime example.
And Ferrari sitting first and third here in a championship battle with Williams. They're contenders, sitting 8th and 9th here. So, yeah, this is going to be a close one here. And Williams need to find a lot of time in their next laps. In the 15s are the Williams teams. In the 14s is the Ferraris. So, yeah, there's a lot of time to gain here. About 2 tenths for Istvan, about 4 tenths here for Kean Godendorp to gain. But then again, you know that Ferrari, Race Clutch, Declan, TSN with Tony, they'll all find improvements as well. So the gap will probably be more like 5/10 improvements here. That's the likes of Kean needs in these next couple of runs. So it comes to the end of the qualifying quite shortly, Josh, and we've got quite a fight for pole on our hands. The gap between first and second, about 0.02 of a second. Then the gap from third down to sixth, or the gap down to third to seventh, sorry, is within a tenth.
Yeah, it's... I
Just
mean,
look,
you can't
between
you can't
Dylan
make
and
it out.
Tony.
It's a joke. It is just a joke. You know, we got Dylan Warren, 78 thousandths off of a pole time. You look, 10 meters behind him on the grid once they all line up. Turner O'Shea, 89 thousandths. It's so close. It's such a joke that these drivers are able to consistently, day in, day out, be able to put in performances which are so competitive with one another. I mean, really, it just goes to show the depth of these E-Series teams. They're utterly fantastic.
Yeah, but the gaps are so close. And of course, with this circuit being quite a short one in terms of lap time, that also means it will always be ever closer because, well, there's, typically less corners and, less places to make mistakes, especially considering you've got 3 long straights, then to turn 1, then to turn 4, and then towards turn number 12. So, the end of this session now going to get very, very interesting. Was provisional pole sitter Joris Krozenhout on circuit first, of course, did take that provisional pole until Istvan Pukki came through with the points 879. But all Joris really needs here is one improvement in one corner, and that could put him back onto fighting for pole once more. But those such as Dylan, Declan, Tony, Sergio, all within a tenth of that, they can easily find the time to get themselves back in for that fight for pole position here. So we got what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 teams here, Josh, potentially, or maybe even 6 teams here fighting for pole position.
Yeah, it's ridiculously close, especially with that onboard we saw with Ika there, showing he made a couple of mistakes in that final sector, and it's still good enough for a 15 flat. Going to be looking to close up once again. We could expect those sort of slides to be absolutely nullified out of the game, and really for him to try and push it all a little bit harder through the first couple sectors, and just making sure he has a clean final sector, no sliding, no corrections, and he'll be looking to improve his lap time and try and creep himself up into the top 3, if not even on pole position.
of course. And I think, guys, make sure in the chat to let us know who you think will take pole position. 10 drivers here looking to take pole away. Wilson a little bit further off the rest, but maybe it could have been the fact he was on used tyres or he made a mistake on his previous run. So still don't count him out for pole position. So make sure, guys, to get yourself in the chat. Let us know who you think will take pole and who also you think will just do well if they can't take that pole position time. But we can see now.
I'm calling it. He's at the back of this little pack. He's going to find the time where it matters. That's what I'm saying. But King got starting his lap at Irich.
We'll see what he can do now as he heads his way down towards turn number 1 here. Obviously getting that DRS as he heads his way down to that first corner. And I forgot, it's quite a long wait before you get the DRS. I thought, oh no, please don't say he's got an issue. But no, he does get that DRS open now as he heads his way down towards turn number 1. Later the brakes, throws the car into the inside at turn 1. You can see just hopping the curb on the entry at 1, hopping the curb at 2 and 3, and then back on the power through, down towards turn 4. DRS once again. Now we'll see what can Kian do in this first sector. Will it be an improvements here? He's up by a 10th.5, Josh. This is looking promising here for Kian.
Yes, it's certainly looking very solid. I'm keeping an eye on Wilson Hall here as well, who's also finding improvement. All these drivers here are really looking to try and get the hammer down, be able to pull off something magical here. But at the end of the day, only one driver is going to be able to walk out of here with a potential pole position. We're seeing Kian now sliding it through the S's section. That's where the tyres are really going to start struggling. The lateral load's getting absolutely forced onto the outside of the car. It's where the tyres will start to really get overheated, really become a little bit awkward with the DRS running now down into turn 12, late on the brakes, flicking it in. Got to make sure he keeps within track limits, and he's done so superbly for chucking it around 13, 14, a non-existent 15, and then it's very quickly on the brakes again for 16, trying to get on the power as soon as possible, holding it over to the right-hand side of the track. Where's King going to be able to place himself? And it's net pole at the minute, but we can expect that to change with more drivers coming across the line. Next up, we've got Joris, who's absolutely looking to be on a barnstormer, but again, it's only P2 with the narrowest of margins. Wilson Hall can't improve. We do have the other race clutch driver, Sergio, slowly falling back there into P6. Tony Roche up into P7. Declan Barrett, where's he going to be able to put it? He puts it back into the pit lane. Istvan Pukki, Dylan Warren, the next two across the line. Dylan there grabs himself provisional pole. Istvan Pukki now looking to size himself up, but of course we do have Ikebana up towards the line. It's P9 for him. Louis Welsh up into P5, and Istvan Pukki grabs that third position there. So Dylan Warren being able to take out the provisional pole position, but it is a little bit of a Ferrari bread sandwich with Kian in the middle. That's going to be interesting down into turn 1 for sure.
That will be indeed. The 3 out of 4 drivers from the contending teams are going to be on the first 2 rows of the grid. And, well, Dylan Warren on pole position. And, well, we saw his face in Q1 and Q2. And, of course, we saw him take pole here in Q3 with a 10,000 gap to Kian going up in P2 ahead of Istvan Pukki in 3rd and Joris Krozen in P4. Then we have Louis Welch in the top 5 for SRC, followed by Declan Barrett in P6 for Veloci Academy. We have Tony Roche in P7. We've got Sergio Sobrino in P8. And we have Ikebana in P9 and Wilson Hall in P10. And then look at the gaps there. 2/10, Josh, separates the top 8. Dylan down to Sergio. Iko a little bit further off. And then, of course, Wilson Hall down in P10. Couldn't quite get the lap underway. I think he made a mistake in the final sector and pulled off to the side.
Yes, he did the right thing. He knew he wasn't going to be able to complete a lap and get an improvement, so he just pulled it over to the side, kept it nice and fair, didn't want to disrupt anyone else's lap, and certainly didn't want to pick up a qualifying ban for his team for the next round here at E-Series. But that being said, expecting, once again, the beautiful lobby restart. So I suppose it comes over to us, Nathan. Are you more of a pancake or a waffler?
A what?
A pancake or a waffler?
I prefer a waffle over a pancake, but we'll have that conversation in a sec, Josh, because I want to have a quick word from our sponsor at GT Omega and Sim Racing Centre. Right, so welcome back everyone. After the qualifying session, we're back here on your screens once again, of course, for the mandatory restart of the lobby before we, of course, get in towards our 36 lap race around the Mexico City circuit. And I'm just going to try and get myself back in the lobby. And then, Josh, we're going to have a very interesting race because we know we've got Ferrari versus Williams pretty much for this championship now because F7R, I think, have dropped back a little bit too much now for these final couple of rounds. And obviously, Keen in second, separating the two Ferraris. We've got Eco a little bit further down in Pinon. He's going to have to try and fight back as quick as he can to try and help his teammate fight against the Ferraris. It's looking a little bit more sided towards Ferrari today, but then again, Keane was down in ninth. I didn't think he'd fight for pole, and he took it all the way to the end before getting that pole position. And also, I can see in the chat there, Byron saying nice to have sponsor boards. Of course it is. I did explain the mistake I made to Josh earlier. I still feel stupid about it.
That's fine. We don't need to discuss it again. It's understandable. Mistakes happen. All of us have made a mistake, whether it's in a qualifying session or whether it's outside to do with a broadcast. We've all been there. We all understand it. But something I want to point out to you, Ferrari, right? They have the numbers up at the front of the field. 2v1. Can we potentially see Kian maybe get bullied a little bit off the start, heading into turn 1, turn 2, turn 3? Then, of course, we're braking zone into turn 4. I can see it being a very rough and tumble start for the Williams driver, trying to battle off the two Ferraris, and then, of course, having equally quick drivers behind, because such little separated them all from that pole position.
Yeah, definitely. I think, Keane's going to have a lot of work to do, I think, to try and defend that P2 and, or, try and get yourself ahead of one of the Ferraris, because they're going to work together. Isfel and Dylan, they're brilliant when they get paired together, so I think those two are going to give Keane a very, very hard time, but also the issue that those three have got is if they start messing about like they are, the guys in P4, 5, 6 will also look to try and, sneak their way through and, try and get a move done because of those squabbling about. So they've got to battle without losing too much time, which realistically is quite hard. So Ferrari themselves have got a lot of work to do. The last thing they want is a Williams ahead. As long as both their cars are ahead of both of the Williamses, they outscore them. That is all they need to focus on today. It doesn't necessarily mean winning. It just means keeping the Williamses behind because they're their realistic only opportunity to, rival. Sorry, unless the safety car comes out and Tycho and Louis lead and they get the win, then it's a different story. But as long as Williams are behind, Ferrari are happy, or there should be at least.
Yes. Yeah, certainly should be. Trying to think back here. It was a little way ago, but Mexico, right? Mm-hmm. Should probably be dry conditions. It's not unheard of for it to be raining, but it is much of a rarity. And I'm considering how Louis Welsh is going to be able to do, because if I'm not mistaken, he is on pad, right? Yeah. And he's able to maximize his setup. Yeah. Should I say SRC setup? To be able to really try and get himself into the window and into that opportunity to be in P5, where if anything happens up towards the front, he's able to capitalize on it. It's just whether that setup over at SRC is necessarily made for racing, or whether it's necessarily made for, trying to get overtake sorted. It's certainly going to be something we can look at. Mm-hmm. If there's any people who have invested in the Mexico SRC setup, please let us know. It'll be very interesting to see what they're kind of running with, or what they've modified run with, because we know before they have just run the baseline SRC subs, which are up for sale. But we also know they tend to try and have a little shimmy around with a couple of the settings just to make sure it's dialed into the driver's liking. Really hone in on it.
Yeah, of course. I've got quite a few of the SRC setups myself, and I do change them a little bit here and there. Sometimes I add a bit of wing on to make it a bit better for me in case I don't spin it and lose it on traction. Sometimes I do lower the wing a bit, especially in open lobbies when drivers do use, for some reason, 0-0 wing. You have to lower the wings. You can't run the esports wings at all. Because when you're along Mexico and you've got yourself, and I think, normally most drivers use around 50 wing gear, it's quite a high downforce track. You will see the odd open lobby driver with 0-0, so you got to literally dump the battery and have your wings as low as you can to try and keep up with them as they, of course, head down towards turn 1. So I think a big thing to take note here as we get through the races, of course, those setups. Who's using lower wings? Who's using high wings? Because then we can see what they're doing in the different sectors and what type of strategies they have in play.
Absolutely. Benza is roasting you in chat, saying you think you know setups. Well, I can tell you for certain, Mr. Benza, lower wings around here, gonna go a long way. Not tyre-wise, but pace-wise, you'll be cruising for a little bit.
See, I'd rather use high wings because I want to be quicker in the second set so I can gap them before we get to the straight and then I can pull away. And if not,
Yeah.
they're not going to gain 8/10 on me on the straight. So, I might
Well,
not go
unless we're
setup
using zero
Spencer,
zero.
but using 0-0, then you're probably going to spin it at turn 2 because 0-0 wings are a pain. I've learned
Well,
that
I
by
mean,
driving at, where was it now? I can't remember what track it was. And I was using 7-4 wings. Can't remember where it was. It was horrible. Horrible.
Monza?
No. I can't remember where now. It was a track with a long straight on it.
That is so helpful. Las Vegas, Miami.
I'm lost. I'm always lost.
Oh,
mate.
oh my word. But no, what will be a key indicator for those of you at home who maybe aren't familiar with how the setups work in this game will be when the tyres end up dropping off. You'll be able to see the drivers which have a lot more wing. If it's not painstakingly obvious through the long straight, you'll be able to pick it up by the drivers who, once those tyres end up hitting the degradation phase, they'll still have a little bit more grip. The downforce will really help the car be able to suck itself back to the circuit. So we will be able to see off this first stint, 7, 8, 9 laps in, when the tyres are starting to get a little bit of wear, they'll be able to keep pulling away in that middle sector because they do have the higher wings, because those tyres are going to have a little bit more grip throughout the rest of it. Yes, they might get caught back up heading down into turn 1 or heading down into turn 4, but it's one of those trade-offs that you kind of got to take. And, it's going to be interesting to see which drivers have decided to go for the I'm looking to overtake the train, and those of which who are looking, I'm more than happy sitting in the train. I just want to make sure I'm through safely.
Yeah, of course. I think, there's a lot of simple. There's a lot of strategy at this circuit. You got to play it like a little bit like a game of chess. You've got to make sure you place yourself in the correct positions at the correct times because, like we saw last night, I'll use a perfect example from Baku in F2.
Here we go.
Leo Lund was in third, fighting for the win. Makes us end into turn 1, loses time, drop back to P5. One crucial mistake costing potentially 4 positions. So that's why we say you need to make sure you put yourself into the right position at the right time. You do one thing you shouldn't have done, and that could be it gone. And on the last lap, you've got no chance to do it again the next lap. You've got that one chance, and that's it. So the drivers with the I wouldn't say the best racecraft, but the ones who kind of know what they're doing around a circuit like this will be in the best positions. Ferrari are in a good position either way because they're together. They can work together.
Yes.
If one of them makes a mistake, the other's like, hang on, I'll back so-and-so up behind me, and you can continue driving off. They can really work together and make this strategy work heavily. So Ferrari, don't cater a 1-2. Don't cater a double podium at all. And I've said that. They're going to both be at turn 1 now.
Yeah, and Jonah Martins will be sent to your house, knocking on your door. But no, realistically, you will want to work with the cars around you, even if they're not necessarily your teammates. Last thing you want to do is get caught up in a battle, lose out on a DRS train. It can be so punishing and force you into a horrible scenario. Jonah's put in chat, he's booking the flights. Nathan, start running.
Wow.
But no, ideally, it's going to be fantastic what these drivers are capable of. I also really want to see what Felipe is going to be able to do. Obviously, qualifying ban, back of a grid, world's his oyster. Go for it.
He's got nothing to lose, has he? He started last. There's nothing to lose at all for Felipe Sousa. So we'll see what he can do, and also we'll see what Tony can do. In the top 6 for TF10, we've also got SRC in the top 5 as well. We've got MVR in the top 10. But Josh, we've got a very interesting race to get underway. We've got a dry race as well. So maybe not as chaotic as it would be if it was wet.
Well, I suppose it'll be an interesting scenario here to find out which teams are trying to play chess and which ones are going to play checkers, which ones are going to want to go and get the moves sorted straight out the gate, and which ones are going to be sizing up their opportunities to perhaps try and skill themselves and overcut for that final last little sprint down to the line. I'll try and have a little peek over at the race director, and I can tell you right now, we have tyres, mate. Chat, we've got tyres. I can confirm.
Oh, that's a good thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a great thing that we've got tyres, but even better is the fact everyone is using different tyres. We have all 3 compounds currently selected. Of course, they do have a little bit of an opportunity here to change them, but so far, we've got to hold on because they can change. It's looking very, very interesting. We might be in for a bit more of a chess race rather than a checkers one. If those tyres are going to stick to where they are, we're looking at a couple of the front runners going onto softs, a couple of the midfields going onto hards, and also a couple of them in between trying to chuck it on a set of mediums.
Well, this makes it even more interesting than it was before. A lot more interesting.
Yeah. Because surely you would think, with the DRS and being in a train, hard tyres, way to go. That'll be the opportunity. Just stick within the train. Don't need to worry about it. If you're up towards the front, you want to be on soft so you can get the good launch, because it is the longest run down into turn 1 on the Formula 1 calendar. You need that good launch to be able to get yourself moving down into turn 1. If you end up slapping a set of mediums or a set of hards on, it can be very, very difficult to try and catch back up and really be able to fight for your position if you end up getting a poor launch.
Of course, and I think, that this start is crucial, isn't it? Because you lose so much speed down this long back straight. I think this is the longest straight to turn 1, apart from, I think, Spain. I think that's a little bit longer.
Yes, the Spain straight is longer, but from pole down into turn 1, this is the longest one.
Okay.
So it's critical for Kian to get a good run. But we do have the 5 red lights here. You can see a couple of the Ferrari cars. You can see that little bit of a yellow peeking out there. And away they go. We've got the majority of the grid chucking it onto hard tyres. We got baited horrendously with the race director. But you see Dylan Moran there already moving over to the right-hand side, trying to give his teammate a little bit of slipstream. So Istvan Pukki will be able to make a couple moves, get it working all the way down into turn 1. We do have a race clutch of Joris poking his nose up to the inside. That, of course, forces Pukki to take a little bit of a wider line. Kian having a slide coming out of turn 3 there and has to fall back slightly. We currently have a Ferrari 1-2, but I don't feel like that's all said and done just yet, because we've still got more squabbling happening throughout the rest of the field. We've got Felipe Sousa on that soft compound tyre, really trying to grab positions wherever he can. And Joris as well, putting himself to the inside of a Ferrari for this turn 6, double apex. Again, he's going to get pinched there slightly, so he's not going to get the best run possible. So Ferrari have held on and established themselves in this 1-2 scenario. It's exactly what they need to do for the championship. But surely Kian's going to be ruining his decision there to maybe start on that hard compound tyre. Yes, he'll be in check with the rest of the grid, but at the same time, he won't necessarily have that run that he needed to be able to get himself down into turn 1 at the rate of knots he was necessarily hoping for. But also, it's been very clean so far.
Yeah, of course, I think a bit of lag there from Nelson Alves, as we can see Felipe Sousa now into P13, and now back down to P14 as Bogdan gets past him as they head out of the forest. So Dylan Warren leads ahead of Istvan Pukki, ahead of Joris Krozen on the hard tyres as they all head now down to turn 1 once again. And now Felipe looking to get 13th away, started last, now in the top 13 here, looking to make this strategy work. We can see Tycho Hardy now on the rear of Wilson Hall, gets himself back ahead of Wilson Hall as they head down to turn 1. Wilson, though, sends it to the outside. That's the inside at turn 2. It gives Tycho the inside at turn 3. Who gets a better run out of there then to turn 4? It will be Tycho, I think, just about ahead as they head now down towards turn number 4. Wilson going to try and fight back, though, into the braking zone. Can he make the move done? No, he can't. Sits back for now. Knows that move is not on in towards that braking zone. And Ika Bayana, surprisingly, not making any positions on that race start there, Josh.
Yeah, it's very surprising considering before the DRS opens, this is your opportunity to go for those really ballsy, really tactical moves where you're trying to throw a couple cars off, trying to push them a little bit wider, make sure to get marbles on the tyres so you can seize the move a little earlier than you would necessarily like, because next time they come round, they'll have DRS, they'll be activated. They're going to find it very tricky to try and make some moves happening, especially, those of which who are from like P4 all the way down to P15. They're really going to struggle to start making moves unless you do have a tyre difference, like Felipe Sousa, as we see him now moving up into P12, doing a fantastic job on that set of soft compound tyres, really showing us overtakes can happen. You don't need the DRS for it around a track like Mexico, but DRS will certainly help trying to carry a little bit more over speed just so we can break that a little bit later on the fresher soft tyres.
Of course, as we can see now, Nick Bonvenza here looking to get himself ahead of Zelen Bida to get himself into P18 as they head down to turn 1. And it's a bit crucial in this battle between MVR and TES because those two are still fighting for P9 and P10 in the championship. MVR, of course, on the upper hand at the moment with Wilson Hall in P11, but the consistency so far, I'd say TES have been consistently more where they are, whereas MVR have been up, down, up, down, up, down. So TS, I'd say, are probably on a little bit of an upper hand in that sector. But we can see, of course, further ahead, Joris Krozen, of course, with that very good start on the hard tyres. And to be fair, using about the same amount of battery as Istvan Pukki did ahead of him. So it's not worked out too badly at all for the race clutch driver, who started down in P5, now in P3, looking to still trying to disrupt that Ferrari party at a 1-2 so far. So they head their way now down into the braking zone yet again. Sousa ahead of Wilson Hall into P11 goes the TF10 driver. He's looking to put in some brilliant work for the team, and this is the type of thing they need. They need to get both drivers in the top 10, and so far they're about to get both in the top 10, because Felipe, I don't think it will take him too long to get himself ahead of Tiger Hardy because of those soft tyre advantage. We can see further ahead, of course, now Barrett's looking to get himself ahead of Welch as they head down to turn 1, but they're not quite close enough to get himself into P5 just yet.
Yeah, everyone's got that access to the DRS, causing them to go a couple extra kilometers an hour faster, which is exactly what the drivers who are looking to kind of hold on to their position, kind of, back up the pack a little bit, are certainly looking to do. But with a Ferrari lead 1-2 here, I don't think they're in a position where they're necessarily going to have to worry about managing the pace of the cars. They can kind of let them roll around at whatever pace they seem fit. Obviously, the closer the pack's going to be, the more chances Ika is going to really have to kind of shuffle himself through the field from managing his tyres and just making sure they're kept in a slightly better window. But he's going to find it equally as difficult as the likes of Tony Roche, Declan Barrett, Louis Welsh to make these overtakes happen, purely because the cars all around him, he might feel a little bit quicker race pace-wise than them, but he won't be able to show that because of the DRS.
Of course, and we can see further below as well, Leo Lund here looking to be struggling on pace heavily here. He's got a 7/10 gap to Zalan Beda, who overtook him a few corners ago, and now under pressure here from Nelson Alves. Now this is not good at all for Veloce Academy. We know back in Qatar they had a bit of a poor race. Obviously Max got second last time out in Imola, but they need to keep consistently in the top 10. And now we're going to have a 3-wide send into turn 15. That was a scary one there from Andres Franco there, trying to make a send on Leo and Nelson Alves. So Leo keeps P17 ahead of Andres, Nelson and Nick Bonventure. Back to the front we go as we can see Joris there looking to make a lunge into turn 1, but just couldn't quite get close enough there to make the move to get himself between the two Ferraris. We can see as well Wilson Hall and Louis Valentine here fighting for P12, and Wilson still a little bit too far back here from the rear of the F7R. And then further ahead, I saw for a minute, it looked like Ika Bena got quite close to the rear of Sergio Sobrino.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how close you can get, because you've got to be practically alongside him heading into 4 to try and get a move, because of how easily it tightens up for 5 and 6 here. It can be very, very dangerous. Cars can get pushed wide, they will receive warnings and potentially time penalties, which they would have to take back to the stewards and argue that they got pushed out wide. Not necessarily having too much of a leg to stand on for a lot of those decisions, but considering the stewards so far, they've made pretty decisive decisions, been very fair to the majority of these teams. Have kept it consistent as well, so we could expect if any drivers end up getting pushed off around turn 5, that it would more than likely be removed.
Of course, and there we can see as well Saitone back into P10 ahead of Tiger Hardy, so looking to make a brilliant job here so far in this race, and Sait's looking to try and maybe close in a little bit more, but actually Tiger Hardy's on his rear as they head down to turn 1. To the inside goes Tiger Hardy there, not letting Sait's to get away. We can see as well further ahead Ika Bena now looking to make a move as Fantapuki takes the lead ahead of Dylan Warrant for a second, and we can see Ika getting in on Sergio there. I'm not sure if you had the same, Josh, but I had a bit of lag there as I headed into turn 1.
Yeah, I feel like that was probably a safer choose there from Micah. Just be able to back himself out of that before, any sort of collision, which could, jeopardize his race even more, especially when you've got cars in front which are more than happy to squabble for position. We see him trying to break the slipstream, trying to break a little bit of a toe, going too wide, taking defensive lines. It's exactly what he needs, because all he's got to do here is really hold on in his DRS train and be able to pick up some opportunities. Very similar to what Felipe is going to be looking to try and do now. Currently P12, lost positions, but that soft compound tyre won't be feeling the greatest at this moment in time, 6 laps in. He's just going to have to hope he's able to keep hold of these hard compound tyre runners, use a little bit of that DRS, try and burn a little bit of battery to make sure he's able to hold on to them, and really try and cause himself to get a little bit of an undercut.
Well, we can see there Dylan Warren holding off Joris Krozen there to allow Istvan Puki to try and gap away, and that has not worked at all, because now Dylan's under pressure here from Kian Godendorp, who's got himself up into P3 at the moment, but can Dylan fight back down to turn 1? He's going to use the battery there to pull ahead of the Williams car once again, and now looking just to try and gap away and keep Istvan Puki ahead as now Dylan looks to get back into P2. Into turn 1 it goes 3 wide for a moment, and Dylan takes P3 away from Joris. Joris in third, goes to the outside there, has the inside at turn 3. What a move there from Joris Krozen. Brilliant move there from the race clutch driver, and now it's going to be Keenston to try and fight back, but he can't, because Joris hasn't got DRS, Dylan has, and Dylan now could just pull to the outside and get himself back into P2.
Brilliant work there from both of the drivers to keep it fair, balanced, clean, no contact whatsoever. Brilliant. Just brilliant, absolutely sublime flair from Dylan Warren, understanding where the DRS is going to be available and calculating it to an absolute perfection. But you've got to consider that 2-second gap there. Istvan Pukki, he's out of the lead at the minute. He's going to have that little bit of a window buffer. Is Dylan going to do a similar thing here in Sector 3 and hold up the grid even more?
Well, as he's held them up for now, you can see that literally Dylan's not even going full speed at all. You could see Joris lifted off completely before the braking zone, and Dylan will probably slow on the anchors again into this corner. He will. Joris goes through, takes P2 away from Dylan. Keane will also be battling as Louis Welch goes solo with Declan Barrett for a second as well, as they all file through into the Peraltado once more. And now, yet again, a charge to turn one. Istvan Pukki leads by 3 seconds. We've got Dylan on the attack at the back of Joris, but Keane using his battery here to try and get a move here on the back of Dylan Warren, but I don't think he can as they head down to turn one. But also we can see Louis Welch now looking to get in. He's looking to join the party between the race clutch Williams and the Ferraris, and into turn one they go. You can see them all looking to move around, and they just don't know where to go, do they?
No, and Dylan's placing his car to try and get the best exit possible out of turn 3. But again, he's just a little bit further behind. If he wants to try and get this overtake sorted on Joris, he can't solely rely on the DRS. He would have to use a little bit of battery and decides better of it. He's more than willing to stay behind here for this lap. Now it's going to be imperative that Dylan's going to be able to put the hammer back down, because now Istvan Pukki's got that 3-second gap. Joris is not in a world here where he's going to be able to close that gap up in any sort of regard without, necessarily trying to work with someone to use the DRS to try and catch back up. We've got battles still breaking out all throughout the race here. Seriously thinking, this could certainly be not necessarily the long-awaited chess battle we was kind of anticipating.
Yeah, they're looking to get the battle quickly. As Nelson Alves has binned it down at the exit of the down at the exit of the S's. So I'm not sure what's happened there. Maybe he's come to contact with someone, but he's gone round at the exit of the S's section, and now we switch back to the front as we go down to turn one once again, and still Pukki got a 3.1 second gap. We got Joris in second there with a just Dylan Moore under about half a second behind. Can Dylan make the move into turn one? I'm sure he'll try to get ahead. He will. Joris not looking too bothered to really defend the move at all as they head into turn one, and no, Dylan sits back. He wants a DRS to get him down to turn 4 possibly here to make the move and then hold them all up once more.
Yeah, certainly looking.
We'll
looking to recharge his battery, isn't he? You can see with the lifted, he's also slamming on the brakes a little bit because his battery monitor is slowly rising up, and again we're seeing it into turn 4, turn 5. He's more than happy to just sit behind here. Do we feel like he's trying to save up for a battery jump to be able to try and challenge Joris down into turn 1 next lap, or do we reckon he's kind of trying to play a little bit more of a long-haul game, especially with the likes of Eakin not finding himself in the best position, moving down now into P11?
Yeah, this isn't good for Ika at all, because now the two F7Rs are ahead of the Williams driver. That is definitely not good at all for the Williams team. So Keane's got a lot of work to do now to try and compensate for the lack of position here for Ika Bain and the lack of points he will be looking to score at this current moment in time. We can see as well now, Dylan Moran's still got a 5/10 gap to the rear of Joris, and last time around it didn't look like he was keen to make a move. We'll see what he chooses to do. So on this occasion, as they all head now out to the final corner down towards turn number 1, we can see as well Declan Barrett, on the back of Turner O'Shea as well, as they all head down towards turn number 1, and Declan last lap around losing the position, of course, to the TF10 driver. He'll be looking to try and fight back if he can and get himself back into that position. And Dylan Warren now looking to close in and not make the move on the rear of Joris Kroos. And as they head through into turns 1, 2 and 3, we can see as well Keane Godin up there in P4 now, looking to try and get him even. Looks like they're there for a second. Louis made a bit of a mistake heading out of turn 3.
Yeah, it wasn't ideal. Had a little twitch over to the right-hand side. Will cost him a little bit of time, but considering how everything sort of played out in this top bunch, Louis Welsh doing a fantastic job for the SRC outfit, holding on to P5 at the minute, keeping within touch of the DRS of these 3 cars in front of him. Because let's ignore Istvan Pukki for the moment. Let's pretend he's not there. Because at the minute, he's cruising. He's more than happy out, living his best life up at the front. But with drivers such as Tony Roche, Declan Barrett hot on Louis Welsh's heels, Louis has done a fantastic job holding on to P5. Not making too many errors, and certainly when he has made them, have not been costly. That little switch over to the right-hand side didn't cost him any time whatsoever. He's just cruising at the minute. Fantastic stuff.
Of course, indeed, as they all have found their way through now in towards the Peraltado once again there to begin lap 11 of 36 here in this race. And now, do we see any moves once again as they head down towards turn number 1? Because Dylan's gaining in very quickly now as they head into turn 1. Now, what does he do this time? Does he make the move this time around? I think he will. You can see there easily flies past Joris Kroos in there to take P2 away. And now Keane following through as well. P3 for Keane. He tries to back off as they head into turn 2 and 3. tries to get the inside if he can. A bit of a switch back here, possibly from Kian Godendorp as they head now down to turn 4 once more. Battery being utilised here by the Williams driver to get himself into P3 ahead of Yois, and now will be right on the back of Dylan, sorry, as they head down to turn 4. And now, this is where we see the battle unfold, because these two are fighting for a championship, and Kian's going to be hating the fact that Dylan is letting his fan get away.
Does not even hitting the apex out of turn 5. He deliberately put the car slightly wider just to hold up the field a little bit more. Fantastic strategy there from Dylan to really try and maximise the distance between himself and his teammate at this moment in time. And, you know, give him a fact here that we've seen Dylan play a little bit of DRS chicken out of that third sector. He seems more than happy to back up the rest of the field to cause a little bit of mayhem there. And it's certainly working his charm right now for the Ferrari team, as we're seeing here, Dylan, once again, slowly seems to just be putting the field a little bit further back. But we know, once again, it's not a case of, you know, the traditional Ferrari driver 1, driver 2, because both of these drivers have phenomenal pace. It's purely down to what's going to work best for the team, what's going to cause the most points in the long haul. And certainly this strategy to guarantee yourself a win, potentially guarantee yourself a fastest lap, depending on how much more Dylan's going to be able to hold up the field, it's certainly looking like it's going to work wonders. But we see Kian sizing up for a move heading down into turn 4. He will have a DRS, unlike Dylan, but you can see Dylan there more than happy to deploy a little bit more battery, try and fend off the rest of this field. But Kian, having a little look to the inside, has to back out of it. He knows he can't make the move there because it will be casting him towards the outside for turn 5. Again, brilliant stuff there from Dylan Warren. And brilliant stuff there from the F7R drivers. And Ika Biner especially, being able to, you know, potentially try and chuck it free wide. He got forced around the outside on the left-hand side of turn 6. Wasn't ideal overtaking opportunity. He's lost a position right down to P12, but he has to try and make these moves, doesn't he, Rich?
Yeah, indeed. You know, he's been a little bit hard done by there, I think, in turn 6. He got sent wide twice and, you know, was kind of bullied out of the way of a position. So he's now down to P12 and under pressure here from the ET8 driver here of Bogdan Moldovan. And Bogdan and Zalan are doing a very good job so far in this race. ETA, you know, they're not looking too bad at all here at the moment. And, well, the sad reality is if they can get 11th or higher, they automatically beat TS's best position at the last 8 rounds. Unless Modesto gets P10. I don't like to throw it in there, but, you know, it's a cheeky little fact, which is definitely not a good one for the team.
That's fine. A little insult to injury. Why not? A little salt in the wound. But talking about salt in the wounds, Kian still not able to find a way past Dylan. Declan as well in a very similar scenario there, down in P7. We saw he's got the pace. He's unable to try and get any sort of closure up towards the rear of Tony Roche's Red Bull, purely because of how well the likes of Yoris and Louis are holding on to the 2 cars in front, being able to follow so closely that the slipstream is even more effective. It's absolutely fantastic from these guys.
Of course, with Pookie having such a big gap there to the rest of the field, he's in a good position to kind of do what he wants with strategy. Because we do know that an undercut and overcut at certain points loses and gains time. Well, with the gap being 5 seconds, pretty much, he can do what he wants here. He can go a little bit later and lose maybe a second or 2. Because he knows he's still got a 2-second gap to the field when he comes out the pit. So, this is a perfect scenario here for Istvan Pookie and the Ferrari team doing it brilliantly to, you know, to get them to back the field up, let Istvan pull away, do what he needs to do, get the win, and put themselves ahead of Williams, because Williams is sitting 3rd and 12th. Ferrari is set 1st and 2nd here. So either way, Ferrari are going to launch that gap away. The gap, you know, it could be even 20 or 30 points by the end of this session, as we can see Felipe Sousa making that pit stop now onto a set of the hard tyres to take those to the end of this race. And there, Ikebana getting back ahead now of Louis Valentin to pop himself up into P11, and now right behind the back of the TES of Modesto Man, who's doing a brilliant job here for the Mercedes TES team.
Yeah, Modesto's been making moves left, right, and centre, really trying to put Ika into a bit of an awkward position. And he's certainly done that. He's been able to put himself in such an awkward position that he was able to get past Ika Bainer, and he's also been able to get past Louis Valentine. So now he's on the rear of Tycho Hardy. And now he's going to be in this little bit of a DRS train where it's going to be a little bit awkward to try and make those moves. But we've seen so far throughout this race, Modesto Maynard certainly knows his way around the Mexico circuit and where he can really try and pull off a load of those moves. Because we are starting to see drivers on the hards slowly start struggling with their tyres throughout the S's section. A great example of that was Tycho Hardy running it a little bit wide through there. But we're never going to say never. These drivers, sometimes we're able to pull absolute worldies out with the tyres, make them just stretch them out that little bit longer. Certainly going to be something Wilson Hall's going to be looking to on that set of medium tyres currently down in P19.
Of course, you start to think now, when do the drivers look to pit? Because you're looking around lap 18, lap 19, but I could see a couple of drivers here in this train for pit, in that top 10 train, going a bit earlier to get an undercut and break away from that field. And then when they pit, they'll obviously lose Thomas. Keane Golden Duck does take second away from Dylan Warren as they head down to turn 1 now. Into P2 goes the Williams, and then we can see further behind as well. Joris will be looking to try and snatch P3 if he can, but I don't think he's quite got the run on the rear of Dylan Warren to do so. So now we'll see what Keane can do from second place.
Yeah, it's down to Kian now to close up this gap, break away from Dylan. Really be able to show what he's capable of, because at the moment he's kind of been nurtured by the two Ferrari cars, kind of forced into an awkward scenario where his tyres won't be feeling the best, but will be slightly overheated. And yeah, he's really just going to have to find a way to try and push the car as best as possible. But you can see there, with the tyres overheating, he's struggling very much to keep it on track, let's say, throughout that SS section. But again, building that 5/10 gap to Dylan, exactly what he needs to do.
Of course, as they will head through now into towards turn 12. Once again, that gap now just going over 5 seconds of time between Istvan Pukki and Kian Godendorp as they head their way down into turn number 12 now, and then down towards turn 1 once again. We can see Roche now on the rear as well of Louis Welch here. Doing a good job here for the TF10 team is Tony Roche. The question is, can he get any higher than P6 here in this race? Obviously, 2 rounds ago, back in Qatar, Max Lee still got a second place. So it would be beautiful to see TF10 get another podium here in this championship once more. As we can see now, a battle to turn 1. We got Sabrino here looking to get ahead of Barrett into turn 1. Can he make the move? He goes to the inside. Barrett breaks later to the outside. Goes Sabrino at turn 2 and just can't quite get himself ahead of Barrett. But so far, looking to show some brilliant pace in the race clutch Alpine as they head down towards turn 4. And now, battery being used by Sabrino to the outside. He was thinking for a second where to go, but he commits to the outside and for now gets the move done.
Yeah, holds it up to the outside, but of course Declan's going to be able to hold it round on the left-hand side, and he will get a bit of traction coming out of turn 6 here. So it's down to Sergio there to put a little bit of a squeeze on. Hopefully not too much. They're not going to go too wide there. Okay, right, well behaved there from both of them. To understand, going too wide at turn 7 is not feasible under any circumstances. Declan backing out there, but Tycho Hardy was all over back of him looking to try and get a move sorted. But on the back of Tycho Hardy at the moment, Modesto Mena really looking to try and pile on the pressure to the F7R driver, and he's done a fantastic job so far. And he's going to go for a late move at the inside. Is it quite there? It doesn't seem to be quite there. Modesto had a little bit of a snap there as well, which will put him under a little bit more pressure from Ika Binder behind it. So very much, you try a move, it won't not necessarily work, and then you're looking further behind you and in the mirror.
Yeah, we got pit stops happening there. We got Modesto Mena, Turner Roche, Andres Franco into the pit lane now for a set of the medium tyres. Kian takes P2 away from Dylan once again as they head down towards turn 1. Barrett's looking to fight here with Sabrino. Sabrino's got a good line through turn 2 and 3. Can he get the move back ahead of Veloci Academy? I don't think he can, no. As they head down to turn 4 now, actually, Declan's losing a lot of time. This isn't good at all for those two, because as soon as they get out that 1 second gap, they're going to be left for dead here in this Grand Prix. So they're going to have to gain as they head through into turn 5 and turn 6 in that middle set as they all file their way through. Warren now, obviously looking on to the back of Kian Godendorp once again here in this race. They've got a 6 second gap to Istvan Pukki in the lead, and then Joris in 4th, having a bit of a quiet race so far, along with Louis Welch as well, who's running in the top 5 as they all file their way through now to the end of that middle sector in towards turn 12. Once more they go, and then they'll be looking to begin at lap 18 of 36, Josh. And then you start to think, now, when do these top 5 look to start pitting now?
I feel like it's very much going to be reactionary based, of course. There's enough of a gap between Istvan and Dylan that they can both pit them on the same lap, so they won't necessarily have to select a driver to take the profile treatment. But Kian, he's in a very awkward position, right? He pits early, the drivers end up holding off, work together. Joris and Dylan trading DRS. He won't be able to catch up nearly as quickly as he would want to on a fresh set of tyres. Or if he decides to really try and push it late, he's looking at potentially getting caught out by a couple of the drivers who are going to be able to form themselves another DRS train slightly further down the order with the likes of Zalambia, Leo Lund, Felipe Sousa. Those drivers are really going to be able to crack themselves in and get themselves a good bit of running in a DRS train before having to, necessarily even consider taking it a little easier on tyres, depending on whatever strategy we're going to go for.
Of course, and also Tony Richet there got a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane, I believe, down when he made his pit stop. So a big shame for him to be in the net lead now with a big penalty, which could cost him many positions on this grid. We can see as well, Modesto Mena now ahead of Wilson Hall. Wilson on those 10-lap-old mediums will be really struggling here to the end. He's going to have to pit once more, I think, in this race to make something work. We can see as well Ikebana as well in P17 looking to close into the rear of Wilson Hall as well, along with Bogdan Moldovan, who's following him behind, and also Nelson Alves, who still hasn't made his stop. Now, has he had another lag issue again? Because he's dropped quite far back, hasn't he, Josh?
I'm not too sure, but one thing I am certain of is drivers diving into the pits. We've got Kian and Dylan both in, Louis in, Declan in. How many more drivers are going to join them? That's my question.
Yep, 4 of them in the moment. We'll go to Nick Bonventer here. When does he pit? He does. Zalan Bida pits as well. Obviously, Sace will stay out. He will go up, I believe, up to around that net lead. No, he will be the net leader, won't he, as they head down towards turn 1. So a decent strategy so far here by Sace. But the key thing is now, what can he do to hold them off? Because he's going to have very quick, angry drivers behind looking to make moves. And he's on older, harder tyres. He's got a lot of pressure on him now as Leo Lund looks to defend here from Modesto Mena, who's still not been in the pitch yet. Leo Lund hasn't, so there's still pressure on him because he's going to lose time battling with these who are a lot quicker.
Yeah, certainly so. He's looking not in the most favourable position, to say the very least. But
Williams.
If he ends up holding up a couple of these drivers, there could be a whole world and a whole different level of potential to try and get his teammate back in, as we are seeing Dylan Moran scrapping here with both the Williams drivers. Having to be very brave there.
Well, can Ika get the move done as they head to turn 7? He can. Ikebana now into a position to be fighting ahead of the Ferraris. So, he's pitted earlier. He's used battery now in a very good position. And Leo Lund, look, he's holding them all up. This isn't good at all because Leo Lund is making the gap so large. Race clutch, F7R are loving this now because the gap's even bigger. So those ahead as now. Key makes a move. Ika's looking to make the move as well. Can't do so. A bit of lag. As Dylan Moran goes to the outside here of the Williams. Can he get the move done? No, he can't. He's stuck behind just for now and then. Louis Welch also looking to get involved in this battle as well as they all head down to turn 1. And Ika is having massive snaps in the car. That car doesn't look fun to drive at all.
No, certainly not. He's very much struggling, isn't he, to try and get any sort of pace out of the car. You know, it's probably one of those races he's going to want to look forward to try and forget heading through the rest of his championship. But then again, it's one of those races where he's going to have to try and pick apart and understand what's going wrong, because right now it's not looking all gravy for him. A little bit more contact there for Ika. Touch from back of Dylan Moran's car. Ended up bashing into the side of Louis Welch's car. Louis Welch has got that position. And now is Ikebana going to have to start looking behind him for the likes of Bogdan Moldovan trying to make a couple moves, because we've got Leo Lund with an absolute dive bomb of a send into the side of Keaton Gordon Dup's side pod. Very audacious, very brave. I'm sure Keaton would use a different word than brave to try and make that move work, but Leo really trying to do everything he can to try and hold up the rest of the field, as there we go. He lets his teammate pass exactly what he needed to do to try and bring Declan Barrett more into this battle.
Yep, indeed. Declan back there looking to make a move on Bogdan, and Bogdan lifts off, and Declan hits the back of him as they head down to turn 12. That quite scared me, boys. But definitely, as they heading to turn 12, and Bogdan defending heavily here. Declan just can't find a way past now as they head into this Farrell's Sol. When does he get the way past? That's the question. When can he find his way past and into P13 as they head through towards this next corner here? Bogdan, I'm not sure if this is trying to... Oh, Bogdan's got damage. Bogdan's got damage. That's why he was holding Declan up.
Oh, dear.
Not a good start for ET8.
It was looking so good for ET8.
I'll curse him so bad again, Josh.
But I'll tell you something which looks very satisfying on the off-board cameras. Race clutch 1, 2, F7R 3, 4. They're all working together in perfect unison.
They've got to pit though.
Yeah, but they're working together. They're staying in a DRS train. They're going to be looking to try and secure themselves an overcut. Or potentially hoping that with a couple of the tactical games being played, a couple of the tempers might be rising in a couple of the camps, and potentially someone might go for a very silly move and cause a safety car.
That's also very possible, yes, indeed. And if that happens, S7R and Red Scutch will be clapping their hands. They will be loving it, won't they? And I'm sure there'll be many celebrations if that was to happen. But, you know, I'm hoping it doesn't happen. I don't wish for safety cars as much as they make the race interesting. I'd never wish for a safety car at all, would I? No. Never, never, never. As they'll head their way now down to turn 12. And I hope you can hear the sarcasm in my voice there. As Joris now makes a pit stop, and we'll go into a set of the medium tyres to take those to the end of this race. And now Isan Puki will come through the final corner to take the net lead and keep the net lead. For now, and obviously it'll be Tony Roche in net second, Modesto Mena in net third here. So TES looking for a podium possibly here tonight, but with the fact all the others are going to be on newer tyres, I can't see this being that's that possible. So they'll head down to turn one, and now we can see as well, where does Joris come out compared to this? Joris not in the worst position now, is he? Because he's got a few going through on him, but they've all got older tyres, and the issue now Joris might have is Andres Franco, because he might try to defend here to help Louis Welch as they head into turn one and turn two. Joris to the outside, and no defence offered at all there.
I don't feel like Andreas could really put up much there, to be quite honest with you. You know, he's not got the DRS, he's not got enough batteries to really try and hold Joris up at all for Lewis' sake. But Joris using that full range of those fresh medium tyres to really be able to try and accentuate how much more grip he has, and he's certainly showing it on display here against Andreas Franco. It's only a 5-lap difference, but you're going to have to consider Joris was up there racing in that front pack with the likes of Louis, Dylan, Kian. He's going to be looking to try and catch back up to him, but it can be a lot tougher than it looks.
Yeah, definitely indeed. It's it's very easy to catch up, but making a move is a whole different story. As we can see, Tiger Hardy and Sergio Sobrino swap for the lead. As actually, no, it's going to be Sergio making a pit stop. F7 Art, Louis Valentine follows in suit as well, and Tiger Hardy takes the lead of the race as they head down towards turn number one. And we'll see where does Sobrino come out compared to this battle. You can see. Yeah, shows the car, but he's not the pit crew. As he heads his way down, he loses one more position, another position. He'll drop down behind Declan. He'll come out behind Andras. What about behind Nick? Oh, he'll come out behind Salon, I think, at this point here, Josh.
Yeah, it's certainly looking not necessarily the most favourable. But you've got to consider as well how much different this could all have been if Leo Lund didn't hold up the rest of the pack. They would have been miles further down.
Yep, Keane went wide there, very wide as they headed down towards turn 3, and neither the two teammates come into contact into turns 4 and 5. That was not good at all. Hikabena there nearly hitting the back of his teammate in towards that braking zone, and now they've got to keep with Dylan Warren. That is the main thing here. If they lose Dylan Warren, they've lost the top two for sure.
Yeah, which puts Louis Welch in a very awkward position. Of course, he'll be aware that, these two are fighting for the title, but he's looking to try and maximise every single possible result here for SRC, sitting in a great position at the moment, with the likes of, Modesto Mena, Tony Roche, Felipe Sousa all coming back towards him, and of course, Tiger Hardy yet to pit as well. He could be looking at a P3 here if he's able to hold on to this position.
Yeah, and it'd be very good as well. I think it'd be very nice for the team to get themselves a P3. As now we can see Tiger Hardy make his pit stop, and now we can see, of course, Isam Piggy take the official lead of the Grand Prix, and now they'll head down to turn 1 once more, and Modesto Mena takes P2 away from Tony Roche. Now this, if TS could get a podium, that would be a story of the season, I think. That would be brilliant for them to see, as Dylan Warren makes his move ahead of Felipe Sousa, and into P4 goes Dylan Warren, and now can TF10 use Felipe as a bit of a Dylan Warren here and just hold up the train, because Roche, he can still be on for a good position here, even though he's got a 5-second penalty.
I didn't even consider that. That could be a complete game changer if Felipe decides to park the bus, go for a full Jose Mourinho tactic, decide to back it up, and he certainly looks like he's going for it. I wish your Birmingham team could do this, but Felipe Sousa doing a fantastic job to hold the ball behind it. I'm sure he's going to be tiptoeing around this entire rest section, probably in 4th gear, if not 5th. Just trying to hold it back a little bit, and he's certainly done a fantastic job. Now he's going to deploy the battery to make sure he can hold on all the way down into P12, and he's done a fantastic bit of work there. Just so, heading into the stadium section, let's back it up a little bit more. Why not? Let's back it up like we're in a nightclub. Absolutely fantastic stuff there from Felipe Sousa to give Tony Roche that opportunity, that little breathing room, which will be so important in the latter stages of this race. Fantastic work there from the TF10 driver, knowing his role, knowing the position he is in this race, knowing the impact he can have for not only the team, but also for Tony.
Of course, and then for a second there, Louis Welch getting a bit of a taste of his own medicine. I remember back a few seasons ago when he was part of the TF10 team, Louis Welch did the exact same thing to help Max Liesl in Japan. And now he's getting the same thing happening to him here in Mexico in a different team. So Louis will be quite angry, but he's done it to people, so he's going to have it to happen to him at one point, of course, in a race. And now we can see battling galore down towards turn 4. We got Joris, Declan, Ika battling for P9, and Peter and Ika is just dropping down and down the field. He can't seem to get comfortable with the car. And that is the last thing a championship contending team needs. He can't defend against Declan at all. Declan's just straight through, around the outside. So
my God. Joris, behave yourself. Don't go around the outside.
He's going to do it. He's going to do it, and he's got it done. He's got it done.
Oh, my word. overtake of a season contender.
Well, Declan went for it as well. Declan went for it there.
Oh, this is going to get messy if these drivers aren't careful. But so far, they've kept it absolutely spiffing, absolutely perfectly clean throughout this race. Our temperature's going to boil over with 10 laps remaining. Dylan Warren has brought the DRS to Louis Welsh because of Sousa's brilliant hold up there. So it's very much looking like Modesto Mader and Toto Shea, one of these two drivers could guarantee themselves a podium as long as they're able to keep it clean. This is just awesome. This is E-Series.
It is. This is what we love to see every single week, isn't it, Josh? As we can see Barrett make a move ahead of Safe, so we can see Sabrino ahead of Bainer now to get himself into P10. And actually, Sabrino was behind Valentino, I think, at one point, so he's made 2 positions within a lap and a half and already having a bit of a slide. Now looking to get ahead of Felipe Sousa down to turn 4 to the outside. Is the race clutch to the inside? Is the TF10? Can Sabrino get the move done? Round the outside, he pulls that Alpine back to the inside at turn 5, and that is that move done. Brilliant move there from Sergio Sabrino, and now he can ascending it into turn 6.
Very bold, very aggressive. A little bit of wheel banging there. Sousa falling further down the order. Louis Valentine, man, looking to try and get the move to the inside. Forces Sousa off the track there. I'm sure the stewards will have a little bit of a look at that one. But Sousa on those oldest tyres, he's going to keep going further and further back for the remainder of this race.
Yep, Tiger Hardy now looking to get to the outside of Felipe Sousa at turn 12, round the outside. Can he get the move done? He gets pushed a little bit off circuit, but he gets back to the inside at the end of that stadium section. Brilliant move there from Tiger Hardy into P12. Goes the S7R, and now they're in a position to make moves ahead of Ika Bene, because look at the tyre difference. 8 laps to Ika, 3 to Louis and 2 to Taika. They should easily fly past the Williams as Tony Roche takes P2 away from Modesto Mader. Dylan Moran looking to gain in here to this train. We've got Sabrino making a move past Barrett into P8. He goes as they head down to turn number 1. Barrett just trying to stick within that slipstream there of the race clutch. And now we've got Louis Valentine making a move ahead of Ika. Josh, you do not know where to look at this point.
No, you certainly don't. But one thing we can mention that we did talk about at the start, having your teammate next to you is so important. F7R are going to be a prime example of that, because Louis Valentine is now in a position where he can try and put Ika Bene a little bit off balance. We saw it with Ferrari earlier. Backing up the field, Louis won't want to lose the DRS, but he will be able to slowly just keep pulling them along for Taika Hardy to get that move sorted on Ika and then work through the grid together, exactly as Race Clutch have done. Joris P7 hunting Louis Welsh. Sergio Sabrino did a fantastic job to get through the traffic to be able to match onto the back of Joris, really looking to keep that hammer down, as we're going to see Joris making a move to the inside of 12. Louis Welsh decided it wasn't worth fighting. It wasn't up to him to try and defend that move with the 3-lap tyre difference between the two drivers. This is absolutely fantastic racing from all these drivers.
It is, and now it's Dylan Moran's turn to get into a battle. 9 laps old tyres, versus 11 lap old tyres. Dylan Moran versus Modesto Mader versus Tony Roche. This could be a brilliant battle to end off this race. We've got, 8 laps to go here in this Grand Prix, and Ferrari looking to make it a 1-2. And either way, it will be a 1-3 at the moment because of Roche's penalties. We can see moves happening into turn 1 here. We've got Joris ahead of Kim. We've got Sabrino ahead of Welch, as well as they head down towards turn 1 and 2. And Race Clutch here, Josh, a brilliant strategy right now. They're looking to, have a better tyre and maybe even look to get themselves onto the podium, or at least one of the drivers onto the podium, because their pace is brilliant. As Sabrino makes a move ahead of Godendorp.
Yeah, doing exactly what it needs to do, making that move, commanding it. Fantastic stuff there from both Race Clutch drivers. Louis Valentine also sneaking his way past Declan Barrett, and Tycho Hardy was outside of a DRS range at one point in time, but he's been able to catch back up with a little bit of clean air. He'll be looking to try and make the moves on Declan Barrett sooner rather than later. We could potentially see both the F7R and Race Clutch teams really trying to battle for, a good chunk of the points here. Probably looking from maybe P4 all the way down to, P8?
Yeah, definitely. I think the battle's going to be very, very large, as we can see Valentino ahead of Welch as they head in towards the two Louis battling there. Louis and Louis. I didn't notice that, so I just looked. And yeah, so we've got Valentino ahead of Louis Welch as they head out of the final corner to head back down towards turn number 1. And now Dylan Warren just on the cusp of the DRS. Not quite, but very, very close. And now we can see Modesto Mader make a move for P2 once again in this race. Into P2 goes the TES car. We can see further back now, Joris grows, and he could disrupt this party here for Dylan Warren trying to gain here, because he's got so much more pace than Dylan. A lot more pace. You can see already on the exit just being able to put the foot down a lot quicker.
Yeah, realistically, we could be looking at maybe a little bit of a switcheroo here between the Ferrari and Race Clutch. Race Clutch could be looking at getting P2 and P3 if Dylan's not careful here. Istvan Pukki, he's more than happy out in the lead of this race, 7.3 seconds. I feel like this is more representative of a real Formula One race at this moment in time. But again, it all comes down to Dylan doing a fantastic job holding up the pack, causing a little bit of a mess for a lot of these teams, and the drivers which have been able to find themselves navigating themselves the best through the mess, both the race clutches and both the F7Rs.
Yeah, indeed, as we can see. Sereno now looking to gain in on the back of his teammate as they head down towards the next few corners. And Hardy ahead of Welch. And this strategy for Welch hasn't worked out the way we would have liked now, because he's also got Barrett right behind as well. So Louis Welch could be looking to not be in the top 10, which would be a big shame because he's done such a good job in this race to get himself into a top 6, top 7 position. He could now be looking to face a P11 or even lower. But down towards turn 1 we go once again. Joris now looking to be right on the cusp of getting ahead of Dylan Warren, but Dylan's got the DRS now crucially on the rear of Tony Roche as they head down to turn number 1. We can see Valentine now ahead of Godendorp to get himself into P7 here. Williams are looking to struggle heavily now, 8th and 12th, and their rivals are 1st and 4th, and you've got to remember the point gap's only 2.
Yes, exactly. Every single point will help Ferrari here in this situation. Really trying to maximise everything. Very, very close to contact there from Tony Roche and Modesto Bader. I assume that's what we was owing at, because I just saw it at the corner of my eye, both of them getting so close to one another. But you've got to start thinking, Dylan Warren, does he necessarily want to try and make a move on Tony Roche, or does he want to kind of work together with these two, I'm going to call them front runners at this moment in time, Modesto Bader and Tony Roche? Does he really want to work with them so he could try and fend off this race clutch barrage, which is soon to come? We've seen them work together to get through on drivers in rapid succession. We could very well be seeing a very similar thing heading down into turn 1 if we're not careful.
Yeah, well, Joris now, I can't not see him making a move into turn 1, because look at the pace he's got. He's literally pushing Dylan through some of these corners. We've got obviously Modesto and Tony as well that are also going to be harming Dylan's pace, but the fight to turn 1 begins once more here for lap 31 of 36. Now Joris will be looking to push in. Dylan's already looking to make a move ahead of Tony if he can. He's gaining in, but not quite enough to make a move here. He's gaining, but also we can see Tony looking to take P2 away from Modesto. Modesto now under pressure. 1 and 2 cars being passed there by Modesto as they head into turn number 1, and it'll be Modesto to the inside now at turn 2. Gets a lunge on Dylan and Ned. This is perfect here for Joris to make a move in towards turn number 4. Battery's going to be used here by Joris to make a move if he can, but he can't find a move at all. He's going to just sit where he is for now and let Dylan make a move on Modesto, and then look to size his move on the Mercedes soon.
Absolutely, it might be sooner rather than later with a very late lunge up the inside there. A little bit of contact with Modesto having to correct the car. But once again, we're seeing the race clutch cars work together in a fantastic way, getting both of the cars through with only the one overtaking opportunity there. Fantastic stuff. Joris and Sergio now looking to hunt down Dylan Warren and Tony Roche. It very much feels like a pack of wolves trying to hunt down these straggled sheep. Currently out in front with 3-lap and 5-lap old tyres respectively to Joris. Joris is certainly looking to try and make moves sooner rather than later. I expect some more very, very bold overtakes from a race clutch duo.
Of course, and the question is, what this race could have been if Tony Roche didn't speed into the pit lane. He sped into the pits probably by only a couple of kilometres an hour, and that's probably cost him now the chance of fighting for a podium. But we can see down to turn 1 now, Joris looking to gain in here on the rear of Dylan Warren. That gap's coming down quickly. We've got Tony now going to be absolutely swamped into turn 1. Joris is going to get past 1. Can he get past him? No, he backs off. But now this is good for Dylan Warren because Tony's going to hold Joris up through this section here. This is perfect for the Ferrari as they head out of turn 3, down to turn 4. Battery's being used now. He needs to burn the battery down towards turn 4 to get ahead of one car. Can he get ahead of Dylan Warren? I don't think he's going to back off for DRS. He does. He backs off for DRS, and now Sabrino looking to send it up the inside into turn 4 and 5. He has to hang it round the outside. Can't quite get the move done. He has to tuck him behind for now, but surely we'll be looking to make it next lap or even at the end of this lap.
Absolutely. Joris had so much overspeed heading down into turn 4. I'm very surprised he didn't try and make a move on Dylan Warren as well. But he decided to back out, brake a little bit earlier, lift off the throttle to be able to make sure he was able to secure himself P3. But I feel like it's very much going to be a matter of time before Dylan's going to have to be on the ultra defensive if he wants any chance to hold on to a potential podium here, because the pace these two race clutch drivers are showing is absolutely phenomenal at this moment in time. We've also got Tycho Hardy as Sergio Sabrino there, tries to make the move. Tony Roche shows him a little bit of the outside, very close to the wall there for Sergio, but Sergio now has got an opportunity to size up this move. Modesto Mena as well, don't forget about him. He's still very much in this battle. With a little bit of a DRS, a little bit of battery pull, he could very much find himself closing in and getting an overtake sorted on Tony Roche. But Sergio looks to be the driver to keep an eye out for, as well as Joris, both of them making moves to the inside of their respective drivers. Joris up into P2, Sergio up into P4, and Modesto Mena looking to try and get that move sorted on Tony Roche on the outside of 3. Is he going to be able to do it? Because we've also got Tycho Hardy having an absolute barnstormer of an exit, getting past both of them, heading down into turn 4, around the outside. Brilliant stuff there from Tycho Hardy, but he's just had a little tap, ran it a little too deep from that little bit of contact. And again, Modesto Mena's just having to give him a little bit more room, but Tycho Hardy's made it back up into P5.
Yeah, and Williams' race now is going from bad to worse because now they've got both F7Rs ahead of them. This is the last thing they needed. That they didn't want Ferrari to be ahead of them. Never mind F7R to be ahead of them. So yeah, at this point, F7R might also get back past Williams at this rate. So this is the last thing that the team want. But we look back for the fight for P2. Joris, Dylan, Sergio are the ones fighting here for P2 and P3 and P4 in this race. And so far, I can't see Racewatch not getting that double podium because they got better tyres. They've got two drivers that can work together. Istvan Puk is off at the road. He's not bothered at all. He's like, yeah, Dylan, you can defend him by yourself. I've got a 10-second gap. So now we can see Sergio here look to get past Dylan. And if Sergio can make the move, then Racewatch can just keep that trend together and do what they did to Dylan. Just keep them ahead. Do what Dylan did to the others. Just keep themselves ahead and defend from the Ferrari behind.
Absolutely. I do believe we've got a pretty wide moment in the background between Modesto Mena, Tony Roche, and of course Tycho Hardy. Tycho Hardy not necessarily getting the benefit there of being able to follow a slipstream, follow the DRS, but now he's got that inside line. But again, he doesn't have a DRS. He can't necessarily extract the extra couple of KPH, leaving Tony Roche and Modesto Mena to battle it out here for P5 at the minute. A little bit of wheels banging between the two cars, but Tony Roche looks to have come out just slightly on top there. Fantastic racing all throughout the field, but my word, has it been an absolute treat of a Mexican Grand Prix so far. And we've still got 2 more laps to go here.
Indeed, it has been a brilliant race so far, and it doesn't feel like we're already near the end of this race. We can see Kian there looking to also try and find a move ahead of Louis Valentine, but also we got Declan Barrett here looking to make a move ahead of Kian Godendorp, so you never know where to look at all here on circuit into turn 12. Declan backs off. Kian, he taps the back of Louis and goes wide. Declan goes through into P9, goes Declan a penalty for Kian Godendorp, so now that's going to ruin his race even more tonight, and Mexico has not been fun at all for the Williams team. They head out of the final corner once again to begin lap 35 of 36, and Sabrino, can he gain in? Can he make a move and get himself into P3? Because that's what he needs, that's what he wants here tonight, is gaining in here on the rear of Dylan Warren. Can he make the move into turn 1? No, he can't. Dylan, though, looks to try and close into the rear of Joris Krozen. Now we can see Roche drop a couple of positions. Tycho Hardy now into P5. Once again, they're all swapping and changing positions. Valentine into P7 now, looking to get himself ahead of Roche, and Roche is just dropping down further and further. But that's the issue he has with those older tyres.
He got him a trap position, but he doesn't have the pace towards the end of a race, unlike a certain Sergio Sabrino, who's still trying to size up a move there on Dylan Warren. It's going to be very brave, very bold to the inside of turn 6. He's decided to stick it. He's got that little bit of a run. Surely one of them is going to have to back out towards turn 7. Nope, they're going too wide there. A little wheel banging, a little tap there from the two drivers. Sergio Sabrino picking up a 3-second time penalty, but given the fact he was going side by side at turn 7, I'm sure the stewards would have a little look at that and consider that to be an unfair warning as he got tapped off the circuit. Dylan now has an awful lot of work to do if he wants to try and claim a podium position for himself. Unlike Istvan Puk, who's about to head onto the final lap of a race here.
I'm sure that penalty should be removed there for Sabrina because he got sent off and then also got the position because he didn't want to lift off because that isn't, it's not on his priority to do that. So I presume those penalties should be removed here for Sergio Sabrino unless he gets another warning here on this final lap. But they head down to turn 1 once more. Sabrino defending. Dylan on to the outside line. Can he get the move done in towards turn number 1? I think he can. Can he get both as he heads down? No, he backs off. He wants to get the move as Sabrino sends it into the first corner, then into turn 2. Keeps it up the inside into turn 3. He's got it again. Dylan goes off circuit. There they go, side by side to turn 4 now. The question is who can take P3? I think Dylan's got a bit more speed to use. He has. Dylan's got way more straight line speed into turn 4, and for now, I think Dylan's got that move covered.
Absolutely. It's all going to come down to that little short DRS run down into turn 12 and how brave Sergio feels. But I feel like it's only fair to mention the one driver here who's had it plain sailing thanks to a beautiful bit of teamwork between the two Ferrari drivers. Istvan Puk, what a race. He got given that opportunity to lead away, and he's certainly never looked back, has he?
He's just done an impeccable job today. He let Dylan defend, then he pulled away, and he's going to come through into the final corners here. Ferrari going to take a win once again here in E-Series 2 in 1 week. Ferrari, it is Van Persie who wins the Mexican Grand Prix, and Joris gets second, and Sergio Sereno still looking to take third away from Dylan. When he does, he gets the move done, but Dylan's going to have a better exit here than Sereno, who can get P3. It will be Sereno on the podium, but he does get a penalty, which drops him down all the way in the field, so it's going to be Ferrari first and third. It's going to be Racesquatch second and eighth, but surely Sabrina will get those positions back, because there's no way in the world that he gets those penalties for that consequence, or gets that consequence for that move.
Yeah, certainly you would consider it, but end of the day, it's going to be a very much an interesting, serious discussion. But end of the day, Ferrari taking another step towards capturing and defending their E-Series title. Absolutely fantastic stuff from them. So, Istvan Pukki, Dylan Warren, their heads are going to be held up high. What a phenomenal week they've had in E-Series this week. But very much the opposite over at the Williams camp. P8 for Ikebana and P11 for Kian Gordondorp. Not planned out the way they wanted. I'm sure they're going to have a very strong internal discussion trying to find out what happened and what went wrong for them.
But we've got to mention there, TES with the top 5. Brilliant. TES, we dated them all season long because the performances were not there. There was a little bit like Birmingham City, but they've come through today to take a P5. Hats off to Modesto Mena. Brilliant job from the Mercedes, well, not Mercedes, from the TES driver in the Mercedes car to now, I think, launch themselves ahead of MVR in the championship.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it's fantastic. It's a great result for the team. It's a great result for Modesto as well. Just gathering a little bit of confidence to be able to really put a charge on and close up to the rest of the pack here, because it's exactly what they needed and it's exactly what they've been able to grab.
Yeah, indeed. And we can see there, of course, Istvan Pukki lifting that trophy, of course, for the Ferrari team. A well-deserved victory and a well-deserved teamwork from the team to take first and third. It'll be Joris Krozen splitting the two in second place for the Racesquatch team. And then Tiger Hardy, brilliant performance. A little bit underrated here tonight from F7R. Fourth and P6 for those two, with Modesto in the middle of those. And then we have Declan Barrett in P7, Ikebana in P8, Louis Welch in 9th, and Sergio Sereno in the top 10. Followed by Kian Gordondorp in P11. Then we have Tony Roche in 12th, followed by Zelenbida in 13th, Felipe Sousa in 14th. Then we'll have Nick Bonventa in P15, followed by Andres Franco in P16, Wilson Hall 17th, and then we'll have Bogdan Moldovan rounding out all the finishes. We had Nelson Alves retire, which I believe must have been due to him retiring after the race. Yeah, he would have been P18 ahead of Bogdan. And then Leo Lund at the back of the grid, tried a strategy, did not work at all, and also got himself a couple of penalties to go with. So, Josh, what a treat there. What a race that was. Probably race of the season, if you ask me.
Utterly fantastic, through and through. Action here, there, and everywhere. We had a little bit of chess strategy as well to go alongside it. Overall, I don't feel like you can ask for any more from a race, other than maybe a safety car. But other than that, as far as everything's looking, it was perfect. That was a very entertaining race, very tactical from a lot of the teams, and we got to see some absolutely phenomenal overtakes throughout the rest of that. That was beautiful.
It was indeed, and we also have a driver in the interview room waiting, and it will be Dylan Warren who's waiting to pop in for an interview. So, Dylan, mate, welcome into the chat. Can you hear us?
I can, yes.
Perfect. So, brilliant race, of course. Obviously, you won back in Imola. You'll take P2 here, P3, sorry, here tonight in Mexico, and obviously that move there between you and Sergio. Do you think that Sergio will get that penalty removed, or do you think you'll still keep the podium?
He'll probably get the 5 and the 3 removed, but I'm not sure about the move in the last sector. Like, maybe a warning will stand, but I still think he'll end up with at least 3 seconds.
Okay.
Because I mean, yeah, I think he was already off track by the time I tried to decide whether I was gonna leave a lot of space or try run him off. But yeah, he was already off anyway. But no, it was a good fight. I don't know what it is with Race Clutch here, but they seem to always get strategy right, I suppose. Mm-hmm. Especially when it's a 2v1, there's not really much you can do. I mean, even with the top speed advantage I seem to have over a lot of them. But I feel like it was a good race. I obviously did what I intended to. And I mean, the strategy worked. We won by 10 seconds with this fan, and then I got at least top 4, and Williams bought 8th and 11th. So
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And obviously, Race Control a little bit further back in the standings, so you don't need to worry too much about them. And of course, F7R did a decent race before. They're going to gain up a little bit to you, but obviously, Williams, not the best race at all. They're really far back now. I think you might be leading by about 30 points going into the next round. So a bit more of a comfort zone, I think, for the Ferrari team going through and towards the final couple of rounds. Obviously, Istvan won by 10 seconds. The strategy went perfect at the start. I don't think that could have gone any better, could it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously for me the best it could have gone is P2, but I
Mhm.
think that was unrealistic with Leo holding us up as well. I sort of knew the race closure will catch anyway, but I mean the train also split up, so it could have been worse as well. But yeah, all I had to do was react to the Williams cars and then hopefully try to get past. But yeah, just again the shame with Leo, but I think every team trying their own strategies now. TF10 did the same. Race Clutch technically you could argue did the same on the last 2 laps. So yeah, I mean part of team sports, team racing. So
Mhm. Of course,
it's
and
fine.
obviously we have our break week next week, and then we're back for Las Vegas and Brazil. You're going to be racing those, do you know?
Hopefully not, but yeah, they're two esports tracks. So I wouldn't be surprised
Yeah.
if Williams and us and Race Clutch try to bring out their esports drivers, but that's just with the assumption that they'll actually be at home.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So you
we'll see.
expect it to be quite an interesting one than those final two, possibly.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to have a buffer now. I think this is the first time we've led the whole season as well. So,
Mhm.
yeah, just good race overall. Even if it could have been better for me, I'm not really too bothered because we won.
Yep, indeed. Well, that's all from me, mate. So well done on P3. Anything from you, Josh?
No, you basically summed it all up. I mean, fantastic work with the strategy. Jonas said he was engineering in chat. I mean, overall, fantastic result for the team. You can't look you can't look back at it and think, oh, so and so went wrong. You can't be overly critical. Very well done, Dylan.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Have a good one, mate. Hope to see you again next time.
You too. Bye bye. Have a good evening.
You too. Right, so I think that is all we'll have today, because I don't see someone in there. I don't see Yoris in there. Yoris never comes for an interview. A little bit more stubborn he is now. It's fine.
Shy.
Yeah, we'll use that now. Yoris is a little bit more shy, I think, which is fine, of course. You don't always have to speak to the top three, but, it would have been nice. But there we are. A nice chat with Dylan, as usual, in the interview room. But we come now to Josh, to the end of what has been a brilliant race here for Renault and Ferrari, looking to try and make it 2 championships in 2 seasons.
It's a back.
Yeah, but
Try and do the double.
it's been harder this season. Last season they won about, I think it was 100 points or something, maybe even more. This season it's been a lot harder. They've had to fight a lot to get themselves to the top. And we'll have a quick look at the calendar, why before we get off. And we can see, of course, we got Las Vegas and Brazil after our break week next week. So, Josh, thoughts on Las Vegas?
It's certainly going to be interesting. Thankfully, the grip levels aren't necessarily the same as what they are in real life, but is actual grip on the circuit. But from my experience, last time I was in a team championship and we went to Las Vegas, it turned into a complete meltdown in the first lap coming out of turn 4. I'm expecting a very similar thing. I'm expecting a little bit of carnage, a little bit of messiness from a couple of the teams, and certainly from a couple of the drivers who might have a little bit of ring rust playing on this version if we do start seeing the esport drivers hop back over, if they do have the free time, of course, after their little trip over to the F1 Sim Racing Championship. But overall, Las Vegas, I feel like it's going to be interesting. If we're going to see a curveball, it'll be at Las Vegas. But Brazil, everyone knows it. Suitable finale for E-Series once again. It's absolutely fantastic. That'll be where we get the closest racing.
Of course, and like you could see on the screen, we have, of course, got a break week next week, and I just want to remind you the reason was because esports is back. Yay! Finally, after 6 months of time, it's back on our screen. So obviously, don't bother coming back here because I think everyone from PSGL will be watching the esports, and some of the drivers that take part and some of the engineers that help out in ECs will probably be taking part themselves. So of course, guys, make sure not to come back next week because we're not here for the normal tiers apart from PS. We're not here either for E-Series. We'll have a bit of a break with them. We're coming back, of course, the week after. Everything kicks off once more. And Josh, we got Las Vegas and Brazil to end it off, which would be a brilliant way to end the championships. So thank you guys for joining once again, and we're back for Las Vegas next time. Good night.